Chapter 3166. The only problem was that the Yi clan's territory was closest to the Ju clan and the Genji clan. According to Lin Sun's estimation, if the Yi clan started fighting, the two boundless realm existences would be able to rush to their aid in 15 minutes at most. This also meant that Lin Sun had to flatten the Yi clan's violet electricity divine mountain within 15 minutes. 15 minutes? Under the current circumstances, it was enough for Lin Sun. However, this was a rare and precious opportunity. He didn't want to waste it on the Yi clan. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Greenwood, platinum, yellow, and scarlet fire Taoist bodies flew out. Greenwood Taoist body and platinum Taoist body flew towards the Ju clan's cloud battle divine mountain. Yellow Taoist body and scarlet fire Taoist body flew towards the Genji clan's Kun divine mountain. Lin Sun's main body flew towards the Yi clan's violet electricity divine mountain alone. This was undoubtedly a gamble. A gamble that the Yi clan, Ju clan, and Genji clan didn't have a boundless realm existence holding down the fort, and if it was against a minor boundless realm existence, with his current cultivation, it was enough to easily finish them off. Violet electricity divine mountain. The Black Mountain was grand and ancient. Not a single blade of grass grew on it, but the barren mountain rocks emitted wisps of purple lightning, making one's heart palpitate. The roiling great Tao life force fell from the sea of destiny in the sky like a white tide, covering the entire violet electricity divine mountain. One could imagine how easy it would be to cultivate here and refine the great Tao life force. The surroundings of the violet electricity divine mountain were covered with 3 levels of divine rank order power, just like a natural supreme forbidden array. Under such circumstances, even if a boundless realm existence came charging over, they would definitely alarm the Yi clan powerhouses entrenched within at the first instant. Of course, the Yi clan's powerhouses had never considered this problem. In the spirit martial world, who had eaten the heart of a bear or the heart of a leopard and dared to attack their territory? Just look at the Yuan clan, the Spirit clan, and those successors of Feng Siyuan. Just how powerful were the forces they possessed. But many years ago, they had been trapped on Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Under such circumstances, let alone the Yi clan, even the other eternal god clans, the Shaman sect, and the Zen sect would not have to worry about these problems. If this trip to the world of the Tao Life Lotus is successful, Patriarch Wu Hen can ride the Tao Life Lotus to the ruins of Myriad Tao. At the top of the mountain, Yi Faidu looked at the life of Wei Lotus in the Sea of Destiny and sighed emotionally. There was a sliver of envy and longing on his face. He was dressed in a purple robe, his figure imposing. Both of his hands were hidden in his sleeves. He was a minor boundless realm existence to begin with, having crossed 2 great silence lifeless tribulations. The current violet lightning divine mountain was also under his command. 7 figures stood beside Yi Faidu, all of whom were eternal realm cultivators of the Yi clan. 6 of them were at the creator realm, and only 1 was at the deviant realm. This mighty figure of the Yi family was called Yi Zhenqi. More than 10 years ago, it was he who came to the Sea of Fate with 2 masters of Xingtian clan and Panwu clan. They spread the news about Lin Sun's deeds in the 9th heaven, which caused a sensation in the whole spiritual martial world. Of course, it caused all the hostile powers that resided in the Lin Wu dimension to hate Lin Sun and even mount heart to the bone. This time, Ancestor Wuhan and the others will definitely succeed. Someone said with a firm expression. That's right. This time we, the Witch clan, the Zen clan, and the other eternal god clans have made sufficient preparations for this. Moreover, Ancestor Yi Ju is personally guarding us. Ancestor Wuhan indeed has a great chance of seizing this opportunity to go to the ruins of wonders of Tao. These mighty figures of the Yi clan spoke one after another. Ancestor Wuhan, named Yi Wuhan, was a minor boundless realm existence. According to their plan, as long as they won in the life of Wei Lotus, They would send Yi Wuhan and the two minor boundless realm existences of the Witch clan and the Zen clan to the ruins of Wonders of Tao. And these were also the ancestor Yi Ju mentioned by the mighty figures. He was the only greater boundless realm existence in the Yi clan. It was said that he had crossed 5 great silence lifeless tribulations and came to the Lingwu realm a long time ago. His cultivation was unfathomable. This time, he was also going to the world of the life of Lotus. I wonder what's going on at the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Will the Yuan clan and the Spirit clan have the courage to take the opportunity to make a move? Someone said with a chuckle. Even a dog will jump over a wall when it's cornered, let alone the old guys from those two orthodoxies. But I'm sure that they won't dare to act recklessly at this time. Someone sneered. The greater boundless realm existences that the Witch clan, the Zen clan, the One clan, and the Xingtian clan left behind have already led their people to the vicinity of the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. If they dare to make a move, they will definitely suffer the consequences. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. The current forces of the Yuan clan and the Spirit clan were already in a worrying situation. They could no longer stir up trouble, so they weren't worthy of their attention at all. At this moment, suddenly, an indifferent voice sounded. Suffer the consequences? You guys sure are arrogant. This one sentence made Yi Faidu and the people around him tremble. They all looked in the direction where the voice came from. On the distant mountain path, a tall figure had walked over at some point. He was dressed in moon-white clothes, and he was handsome and outstanding. Such a scene made Yi Faidu and the others reveal looks of disbelief. The entire violet lightning divine mountain was covered in the power of 3 divine rank orders. Even if a boundless realm figure came, he would definitely be obstructed, and they would know at the first possible moment. But now, someone had silently appeared in their nest without them noticing. They couldn't help but be shocked and feel extremely surprised. It's him, Lin Sun. When he saw Lin Sun's figure, Yi Zhenqi's expression changed greatly, and he cried out involuntarily. How is this possible? This was the core area of the Lingwu realm, the place where the Yi clan resided. But now Lin Sun had appeared in their field of vision like a ghost, and Yi Zhenqi almost didn't dare to believe his eyes. Lin Sun. Instantly, Yi Faidu and the others revealed strange expressions and were extremely restless. No matter how they racked their brains, they never imagined that this young man that they hated to the bone would actually appear before them today. All of this seems so sudden. I came here today to give you a chance to take revenge. Of course, I will also use this opportunity to end the hatred between us. As Lin Sun spoke, he was already walking over with a calm expression. Humph, you're just a little thing in the creation realm, yet you dare to be so deranged. You really don't know what's good for you. Yi Faidu, the existence of the lesser boundless realm, snorted coldly. Tell your helper to come out as well, or you'll die without a doubt. In his view, Lin Sun being able to sneak into the purple electricity divine mountain without a sound and dare to face them so openly was destined to have the help of an existence even more powerful than Lin Sun. Otherwise, Lin Sun, a creation realm existence, couldn't do this at all. And Yi Faidu's words also shocked the other powerful figures of the Yi clan. Their eyes swept around and they became alert. Of course, what made them even more uneasy was that the current Lin Sun was actually an existence in the creation realm. After all, when Yi Zhenqi sent the news over 10 years ago, he only said that Lin Sun had the cultivation of the transcendent state. And in these short years, Lin Sun's cultivation had achieved such a great transformation and breakthrough. How could they not be shocked? But they saw Lin Sun laugh, and his voice was full of sarcasm and coldness. Why do I need the help of others to deal with you old guys? Is that so? I'd like to see where you get the confidence to say such big words. Suddenly, a thin figure of a man in a golden robe rushed out, like a thunder tearing through the void, and attacked Lin Sun. This was an existence in the creation realm, and his whole body was steaming with the terrible power of rules. Divine light was steaming, and his power was terrifying. As soon as he attacked, he directly controlled a bronze seal, and fiercely bombarded Lin Sun. Boom! The bronze seal emerged with the destructive purple thunder rules, brilliant and dazzling. Such a blow could be said to be swift and violent. But Lin Sun stretched out his hand and grabbed. Buzz! The bronze seal wailed violently, and was directly snatched by Lin Sun. The released purple power of rules was crushed, and with a loud bang, it burst into countless light rain. And at the same time, Lin Sun's figure suddenly moved forward, and his power was suddenly released. At that moment, it was like an overwhelming raging sea pressing down. With a bang, the man in the golden robe was directly suppressed to the ground. His body cracked and blood splashed. One blow. With only his own power, he suppressed existence in the creation realm on the spot. Everyone present shuddered, and their expressions completely changed. They were all stimulated by this scene. "You're courting death." Fidu attacked at once. He stretched out his hands hidden in his sleeves, and fiercely clapped in the void. Boom! The void was chaotic, and the mountains and rivers trembled. A mysterious seal full of forbidden power was condensed. The seal seemed to be the size of a palm, but at this moment, it was like a purple sun, reflecting a torrential purple glow, and dyed the world purple. And the aura released by this seal was also far beyond the scope of the creation realm, and it was branded with the aura of rules that could shock the ages. If it were any existence in the creation realm, facing such a blow, they would probably feel despair and helplessness, because this was the power that belonged to the small boundless realm, and the power they could control had already reached an incredible level. But facing such a blow, Lin Sun didn't dodge, but instead rushed forward. Boom! His cultivation was released to the extreme, and his tall figure shone brilliantly like an abyss. As he threw a punch, the Nirvana ultimacy, which had been fusing the 5 sequences of the ultimate, the rules of creation, the rules of time, and other forbidden rules in the past 19 years, was released in this punch. It was fine if he didn't attack, but once he did, it was a thunderous blow. And then, the seal that was like a violet-colored sun was directly crushed into pieces by this fist force that was obscure and chaotic, and it caused an explosion that shook the heavens and caused a rain of light to spray out. Fidu couldn't help but be shocked by this punch. How could he be so powerful? But at this moment, he didn't have much time to think. The punch had already arrived. Bang! Fidu used all his strength to take the attack head-on, yet he staggered from the overwhelming punch. He was pushed back several dozen meters. His old face was flushed and his aura was fluctuating violently. I'll continue to update tonight. Chapter 3167. Fidu. A lesser boundless realm cultivator who had gone through 2 great silence lifeless tribulations, a cultivator who had stepped into the ultimate realm of the eternal path, was defeated by a single punch. And the one who defeated him was a young man who was merely at the peak of the creation realm. The soul-stirring scene caused a wave of exclamations. Yi Jinshi and the other cultivators of the Yi clan were astonished and felt their scalps tingle. How was this possible? Fidu's face was also filled with shock and doubt. There was an entire realm between the creation realm and the boundless realm. Yet, the power of Lin Sun's punch was so heaven-defying and tyrannical. Now, do you still think I need a helper? Lin Sun had already charged forward with an indifferent and disdainful voice. When his tall figure moved horizontally, he crushed the air like an abyss and created a huge crack. His aura was too strong, causing everyone present to feel pressured and suffocated. Fidu, who bore the brunt of the attack, also felt a stinging pain on his skin. Lin Sun's unparalleled murderous intent locked onto him, giving him a bone-piercing chill. Fidu couldn't believe this feeling. A cultivator at the peak of the creation realm could make a lesser boundless realm cultivator like him feel a chill. This completely overturned his understanding. Boom! Lin Sun swung his fist. Yi Faidu wouldn't just sit and wait for death. He leaped forward and faced the attack head-on. But in just a second, his figure was shaken again. The terrifying fist energy was like a landslide and a tsunami, so much so that he had the urge to cough up blood. Yi Faidu's expression completely changed. He took out his Dao weapon without hesitation and fought with all his might. Clang! A silver spear tore through the air like a snow-white bolt of lightning. With a shout from Yi Faidu, the spear swept across the sky and created a rain of the Great Path. But Lin Sun was still empty-handed. His attacks became even more powerful. A great battle erupted. In several breaths of time, the two had exchanged over 100 moves. Fists and spears collided, emitting deafening explosions. The entire violet lightning divine mountain was fiercely impacted, causing rocks to collapse and stone fragments to fly everywhere. What caused Yi Zhenqi and the others to be horrified was that in such an intense battle, a minor boundless realm existence like Yi Faidu had already suffered heavy injuries. His entire body had cracked apart and fresh blood flowed out, and he was in an incomparably miserable state. Looking at Lin Sun, he was as powerful as the supreme dominator. Every punch he threw was so overbearing that it made people's hearts tremble. "Let's go together." A creation realm being roared and charged into the battle with a sword in hand. "Kill! Kill!" The others didn't dare to be negligent and attacked together. Boom! The void trembled and the light of the Tao surged. All sorts of supreme divine abilities were released from the eternal Tao soldiers, and they were like the waters of the Milky Way pouring down and smashing into the world of mortals. The peerless torrent of Tao light caused the violet lightning divine mountain to collapse and completely disintegrate. In the face of such a siege, Lin Sun sneered and suddenly shook his sleeves. "Rise!" Rumbling resounded as the abyssal sword cauldron carried an obscure and hazy rain of light as it soared through the sky, and the might it emanated was so formidable that it fiercely crushed the attacks that came from all directions. In this instant of collision, many eternal Tao soldiers were damaged, and they wailed without end. Then, a simple and unadorned Taoist sword swept out of the abyssal sword cauldron and swept through the void. Bang! 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 One after another, the creation realm powerhouses were suppressed by the vast sword intent like chickens and dogs. Their bodies exploded one by one, and blood splattered everywhere. Even their primordial spirits were severely injured by the sword intent and imprisoned on the ground. As for Yi Zhenqi, a powerhouse in the transcendent realm, he was killed on the spot. Both his body and soul were destroyed. In an instant, only Yi Faidu, a minor boundless realm existence, was left. The other powerhouses of the Yi family were suppressed on the ground. Damn it! The bloody scene made Yi Faidu's hair stand on end, and his eyes were bloodshot. He suddenly reached out and grabbed. But what caught him off guard was that the 3 divine-level orders that covered the world didn't move at all. They were completely out of his control. This sudden change made Yi Faidu's heart tremble. Could it be, at the same time, Lin Sun had already charged at him with the abyssal sword cauldron? Crack! The silver spear broke. The terrifying impact made Yi Faidu, who was already seriously injured, unable to hold on any longer. His entire body exploded and fell into pieces. As soon as his primordial spirit rushed out, it was suppressed by the abyssal sword cauldron. Lin Sun, when my ancestor Yi Ju returns, it will be the day of your death. Yi Faidu's primordial spirit roared wildly. Unfortunately, he was suppressed in the abyssal sword cauldron. As Lin Sun exerted force, his primordial spirit was knocked out by the shock. Less than a quarter of an hour. Lin Sun secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The operation this time was a little easier than he had expected. Or rather, he didn't expect that only Yi Faidu, a minor boundless realm, was guarding the purple lightning divine mountain. Such a force could hardly threaten Lin Sun. Shaking his head, Lin Sun waved his sleeve. The powerful figures of the Yi clan were collected and suppressed in the abyssal sword cauldron. Then, Lin Sun looked around. Before entering the purple lightning divine mountain, he used the power of nirvana to subdue the 3 divine level orders that covered this place without leaving a trace. This was also why Yi Faidu couldn't use the divine level orders when he wanted to. Whoosh, as Lin Sun reached out and waved, the 3 divine level orders that covered the world were collected. Then, Lin Sun stood in the void and waited quietly. Before long, the figures of the yellow earth Taoist form and the scarlet fire Taoist form came from afar. As they communicated telepathically, Lin Sun's main body immediately learned that the Eternal God Clan's forces on the 8 Kuan Divine Mountain had been wiped out. In total, 1 minor boundless realm and 5 creation realm existences were suppressed. Even the 2 divine level orders that covered the 8 Kuan Divine Mountain had been taken away. In comparison, the forces left on the 8 Kuan Divine Mountain by the Yuanshi clan weren't even as strong as the Yi clan. Only the Platinum Taoist form and the Greenwood Taoist form are left. Lin Sun collected the Yellow Earth Taoist form and the Scarlet Fire Taoist form and continued to wait. But a quarter of an hour had passed, and the 2 Taoist forms still hadn't returned. This made Lin Sun's main body frown. He didn't dare to wait any longer. His figure flashed, and he headed straight for the Cloud Battle Divine Mountain, where the Ju clan of the Eternal God clan was entrenched. Moving at full speed, Lin Sun arrived at the Cloud Battle Divine Mountain in just a quarter of an hour. Up and down the mountain, 2 completely different kinds of divine level orders were tumbling, releasing a terrifying aura of destruction. It was obvious that a great battle had broken out on the mountain. Lin Sun's heart tightened, and he rushed over at once. Whoosh! The power of the 2 divine level orders couldn't stop Lin Sun at all. He easily swept through them without causing any commotion. A great battle had indeed broken out here. The mountain that occupied the Aurora had collapsed and turned into ruins, and above the ruins, the Greenwood Taoist form and the Platinum Taoist form were fighting fiercely with a figure. When Lin Sun's main body appeared, he instantly sensed the thoughts of the 2 Taoist forms and understood what had happened. The mighty figure of the Ju clan who was fighting with the 2 Taoist forms was called Ju Wutian. He was an existence who had gone through 3 great desolation fateless tribulations. But this person's combat power could be said to be heaven-defying. He was incredibly powerful, and he wasn't inferior to a boundless realm existence like Ying Shanying. It was precisely because Ju Wutian was keeping watch that the movements of the 2 Taoist forms, the Greenwood Taoist form and the Platinum Taoist form, were hindered. They hadn't been able to take him down until now. After understanding all this, Lin Sun's main body couldn't help but be moved. He was also very awestruck. Over the years, the only boundless realm powerhouse he had truly fought was Ying Shanying, which was why he had always used Ying Shanying to measure and compare the power of the boundless realm. But obviously, Ju Wutian wasn't someone who could be measured with common sense. Yi Faidu, who Lin Sun had killed before, was also a minor boundless realm existence, but Lin Sun hadn't spent much effort to suppress him. But this Ju Wutian could actually fight with his 2 Taoist forms until now. One could imagine how terrifying this person's great path foundation was. Rumble! In the void, the battle became more and more intense. Ju Wutian's figure was tall, dressed in a blue robe, and he looked like a young man. His whole body was surging with magical rule power, and he was controlling a fiery red divine sword, which was extremely violent and raging. His whole body was like a ball of fire, with a terrifying power that could incinerate the heavens. In the nearby area, there was a group of Eternal Realm powerhouses of the Ju clan, watching the battle while waiting in formation. I can't delay any longer. A cold light flashed in the eyes of Lin Sun's main body. Without hesitation, he moved through the void and rushed over. Boom! The abyssal sword cauldron swept across the sky, directly suppressing Ju Wutian. Clang! Ju Wutian waved the fiery divine sword and blocked the blow, but his figure was shaken, and his expression changed slightly. Sure enough, this is your main body. He seemed to have expected it, so he didn't panic and appeared very calm. At the same time, he shouted, "Send out a message and ask for help from other divine clans, quickly!" Too late. Lin Sun's main body lightly spat out 2 words. The next moment, Yellow Earth and the Scarlet Fire Taoist body rushed out together, killing the group of powerful figures of the Zhu clan in the distance. His main body and the other 2 Taoist bodies attacked Zhu Wutian with all their strength. Boom! In an instant, Zhu Wutian fell into a dangerous situation. He had already felt great pressure when facing Lin Sun's 2 Taoist bodies. Now, with the appearance of the Abyssal Sword Cauldron, the stalemate was suddenly broken, and the situation was reversed. This made Zhu Wutian secretly anxious, and he began to fight desperately. He just wanted to buy some time and wait for help. In this way, the current predicament could be easily solved. But in the blink of an eye, Zhu Wutian's heart sank to the bottom. The 5 creation realm powerhouses of the Zhu clan were all defeated and suppressed, and they were completely vulnerable. Damn it! Zhu Wutian's expression finally changed. Lin Sun, do you know the consequences of doing this? When the top figures of the major forces return, not only you, but also those people on Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain will be in trouble because of you. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and didn't say anything. He stepped up his attack. At this time, the 2 Taoist bodies, Yellow Earth and Scarlet Fire, also rushed over and joined the battle. All of a sudden, Zhu Wutian, who was already in a precarious situation, couldn't hold on any longer. Bang! After a few breaths, the seriously injured Zhu Wutian suffered a heavy blow. His vision darkened, and his consciousness blurred for a short time. His whole body was grabbed by Lin Sun and pressed into the Abyssal Sword Cauldron like a chick. Update delivered tomorrow was the last day of the month. Originally, he had promised everyone that he would release an update, but he had been so busy recently that he didn't have time to prepare for it. He wanted to apologize to everyone after a while. When the situation stabilized, Goldfish would add an explosive update for everyone. Chapter 3168. Enchanting came from the Tao era. He was a real boundless realm existence. He once fought in the Sea of Fate, fought his way out of all the killing tribulations, and finally got a chance to reach the ruins of Tao. It could be imagined how powerful Enchanting was in the past. In contrast, Zhu Wutian, a small boundless realm existence, had a combat capability not weaker than Enchanting. It could be imagined how heaven-defying this person's Great Way foundation was. Enchanting was defeated by Lin Sun, who was at the early stage of Creation Realm. Lin Sun was also seriously injured and almost failed. Now Lin Sun, who had the cultivation of great perfection of Creation Realm, could fight evenly with Zhu Wutian, whose combat power was not weaker than Enchanting, with just 2 Tao bodies. And when Lin Sun used the 5 Tao bodies and himself, he could easily suppress Zhu Wutian. It could be seen how amazing Lin Sun's combat capability had improved over the years. However, this battle gave Lin Sun a wake-up call, and it allowed him to realize that even if it was the eternal Tao, there was no lack of extremely heaven-defying experts. Zhu Wutian was a living example. I have to leave quickly. After cleaning up the battlefield, Lin Sun did not dare to waste any more time. He turned around and left. Behind him, the Cloud Battle God Mountain, which had been taken away by the Divine Order, had turned into ruins. Almost as soon as Lin Sun's figure disappeared in the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dazzling figures with terrifying aura swept over from afar and came to the ruins of the Cloud Battle God Mountain. It was a group of eternal realm existences, both men and women. When they saw the scene in front of them, they all opened their eyes wide and froze, as if they could not believe it. Who is so bold to destroy the lair of the Zhu clan? After a while, someone spoke as if he was talking in a dream. His words and expression were both trembling. It must be those old bastards from the Yuan Church and the Spirit Church. Someone said in a low voice. Now is not the time to discuss this. Quickly spread the news. Let the voodoo cult, the Zen church, and the other god clans come here. Someone said resolutely. Immediately, these eternal-level existences took action and sent out message talismans. It didn't take long for forces from the voodoo cult, the Zen sect, and the other eternal gods to arrive from all directions. When they saw the ruins of Ju clan's old nest, their expressions changed drastically. Just when they were shocked by this, a figure hurried over from afar. Not good, the Yi clan's Violet Lightning Divine Mountain and the Minamoto clan's 8 Earth Divine Mountain have both been reduced to ruins. The fellow Taoists of these two god races have vanished without a trace. His words terrified all the mighty figures of the major forces present. How could this be? Some people found it hard to believe. Today, the sea of fate was stirring and the great Tao Life Lotus was born. The top experts of the various superpowers were fighting their way into the world of the Life Lotus. Even so, there were still powerful people guarding the bases of the superpowers. But now, the headquarters of the Yi, Ju, and Minamoto divine clans had been destroyed. Who could accept this? In the core area of the spirit martial world, besides those old bastards on Divine Lotus Mountain, there's no one that dares to go against us. Some people suspected that this was done by the Yuan sect and the Spirit sect. After all, in the entire spirit martial world, only the experts of the Yuan Church and Spirit Church could accomplish this. As for those scattered in the periphery, the characters on the fringe weren't even worth looking at. The territories of these three god clans are like the horns of each other. No matter which of them is attacked, the other two god clans will notice it immediately. But now, the territories of these three god clans have all been destroyed. The person who did this can't be the same person. Someone analyzed calmly. That's impossible. 4 hours ago, our Zen sect's Grandmaster Xin joined forces with 3 other boundless realm existences and led a group of major powers towards the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Under such circumstances, the forces of the Origin sect and the Spirit sect have no chance of walking out of the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. An old monk from the Zen sect said in a deep voice, "If those old bastards on the Divine Mountain don't even care about their lives, what wouldn't they do? Come, let's go to Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain and take a look." A powerful figure from the witch sect said coldly. As he spoke, he already took the lead and sped towards the direction of the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. When the others saw this, they exchanged glances and also started moving. However, only a portion of people headed towards the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. The other portion hurried towards the territories of their respective forces. They wanted to inform these news to the powerhouses in their own forces, to let them be on guard in advance. At a place 100,000 feet away from the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, a camp was built. Even if it was just a temporary camp, it was built majestically, with palaces scattered about. Before this, it had always been Yuan Zhongqi, Tai Haoju, Yangheng, and Song Yoji, for minor boundless realm major powers, overseeing this place. But today, along with the Zen sect's Xin, the witch sect's Wu Hongzi, the Wen clan's Wenzai, and the Xingtian clan's Xing Tianyuan, these 4 greater boundless realm existences, as well as the other 9 minor boundless realm existences, it caused the strength of this camp to skyrocket like never before. At this moment, Xin, Wu Hongzi, and the rest gathered together, discussing the situation of the great Tao Life Lotus this time. Their demeanor was leisurely and calm. Occasionally, when their gazes looked towards that Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain in the distance that had no activity at all, their gazes would carry traces of disdain and ridicule. But this peaceful and tranquil atmosphere was shattered very soon. The major powers of the various major forces teleported over, and also brought the grievous news regarding the Yi clan, Ju clan, and Gung clan. How could it be like this? Who did it? For a moment, the faces of the major figures present all changed. The expressions of Xin, Wu Hongzi, Wenzai, and Xing Tianyuan, these 4 greater boundless realm existences, also became ugly. The reason why the four of them stayed behind this time was in order to guard the various major forces' territories, to ensure that when these forces' peak forces carried out a struggle in the world of the great Tao Life Lotus, there would not be people taking the opportunity to stir up trouble. But they never thought that on the first day this great Tao Life Lotus appeared, a disaster happened. This was simply slapping the faces of them, these four greater boundless realm figures. Old Ancestor, could this not be the doing of those old bastards on Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain? A creation realm expert of the sorcerer cult could not help but ask. They had come to report because they were worried that there would be unrest at Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, allowing the Yuan cult and spirit cult's forces to take the opportunity to attack, resulting in such a disaster. But now it seemed that something was wrong. How could they have a chance? Wu Hongzhi snorted coldly. His appearance was haggard, his eye sockets were sunken, and his hair was sparse. His entire aura was cold and sinister, making one's heart palpitate. It was indeed not the Yuan cult and spirit cult's doing. Xin also said in a low voice. They had been guarding here all this time, and there was no movement at all on Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Moreover, their divine senses covered the world. If the Yuan cult and spirit cult's forces were to make a move, they would not be able to hide it from them. Then, who could have done this? Everyone was stunned, and their expressions changed indeterminately. If it was not the Yuan cult and spirit cult, in the Lingwu realm, which force had the ability to destroy the three eternal god clans' forces? Zhu Wutian of the Zhu clan is also dead? Wen Zai suddenly asked. Everyone from the Zhu clan is gone. Someone answered in a low voice. All of a sudden, everyone's hearts trembled. Zhu Wutian, a heaven-defying existence in the minor boundless realm, known as an invincible figure in the minor boundless realm. His battle prowess was so strong that he could stand shoulder to shoulder with a greater boundless realm existence. Such a heaven-defying almighty figure also had a decisive position in these great forces. Even greater boundless realm figures like Xin and Wu Hongzhi had to be courteous to him. But now, it was very likely that Zhu Wutian had met with a calamity. With Zhu Wutian's strength, he could even fight against a greater boundless realm figure. But now, someone could defeat him. The culprit's strength must be at the greater boundless realm, and his battle prowess is extremely strong. Otherwise, it's impossible that Zhu Wutian didn't have a chance to escape. Xin Ying's eyes flashed, and a hint of seriousness appeared between her brows. Perhaps it was easy to defeat an opponent comparable to a greater boundless realm existence, but to kill such an existence, one must have the strength to suppress them. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the culprit's strength was. There should be more than one culprit. Otherwise, it would be impossible to destroy the territories of the Yi clan, the Zhu clan, and the Yuan clan in such a short time. If so, doesn't it mean that there are more greater boundless realm existences in the current spiritual martial realm? And these opponents even see our forces as enemies? Wu Hongzhi couldn't help but be shocked, revealing a look of surprise. After listening to his and Xin Ying's analysis, it made the others' hearts palpitate, and the atmosphere became oppressive. Only the eternal realm figures of this era can enter the spiritual martial realm. But in this world, apart from the 4 great ancestral halls and the 12 eternal god clans, how can there be other boundless realm existences? Strange, it's really too strange. There must be something hidden in this matter that we don't know. Wen Zai said with a frown. Could it be the power of the Heart Mountain? Don't forget that the Heart Mountain is the best at planning. Back then, the Dharma image he left in the spiritual martial realm was defeated by us, but before that, he joined forces with the mysterious golden cicada and ruined many of our plans. Wu Hongzhi said. Many people narrowed their eyes. In my opinion, the top priority is to find out the enemy's identity as soon as possible. Xin said. Only in this way can we avoid such a disaster from happening again. In your opinion, what should we do next? Wu Hongzhi asked. Xin pondered and said, From now on, fellow Taoist Xing Tianyuan and I will continue to guard this place to prevent the opponents on the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain from taking the opportunity to make trouble. She looked at Wu Hongzhi and said, Fellow Taoist, you and fellow Taoist Wenzai will lead the others back to their respective forces. Back? Wu Hongzhi frowned. Xianing said, That's right. Gather all the fellow Taoists of our forces together. In this way, even if the Divine Mountain our forces live in will be destroyed, we can avoid the possibility of being defeated by the enemy one by one. Everyone came to a realization and couldn't help but nod. Indeed, if the forces were scattered, it would be the easiest for them to be defeated one by one. What happened to the Yi clan, the Ju clan, and the Minamoto clan was a good example. Chapter 3169. Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Strange. Those fellows came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Even Wu Hongzhi and Wenzai left with their men. Could it be that something has happened? Fu Nanli's eyes were filled with surprise. Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain was only 30 kilometers away from the enemy's campsite, so they could clearly see the enemy's movements. But now, only Xianing and Xing Tianyuan, the two boundless realm existences, were left in the enemy's campsite. This unusual scene attracted the attention of everyone on Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Or maybe they're playing hard to get. They're trying to test if we'll seize this opportunity to attack. Xing Jianxia's eyes flickered. Fu Nanli had a different opinion and said, Playing hard to get? Xian Hu and Lei Song have already brought their strongest forces to the world of life Lotus. Under such circumstances, how could the enemy camp dare to tempt us to attack? When he spoke up to hear, his gaze was firm as he said, In my opinion, an unforeseen event has surely occurred, and this unforeseen event is extremely great. Otherwise, it would absolutely not force Wu Hongzhi and Wenzai to have no choice but to retreat. The people of the Origin Sect, Spirit Sect, and Heart Mountain nearby were in an uproar. Too many things had happened today. First, the Sea of Destiny had changed and created the opportunity to head to the ruins of Tao for the 4th time. After that, Xianing, Wu Hongzhi, and the other two boundless realm existences had brought a group of experts to guard here. Obviously, they wanted to guard against any disturbances in Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Now, such a change had occurred in the enemy camp. All of this seemed very unusual. What exactly had happened in the spirit martial world today? Xing Jianxia, Fu Nanli, and the others were all puzzled. It's a pity that we're trapped here and can't find out anything. Otherwise, we might be able to seize an opportunity to counterattack. Fu Nanli sighed. The others were silent as well. This was the consequence of being trapped. They couldn't participate in the battle in the world of life Lotus, and they couldn't find out what was happening in the outside world. No matter how depressed they were, they could only endure it. Such a change in the enemy camp might be a good thing for us. Xing Jianxia's eyes darkened. This at least proves that there is some kind of change happening in the Lingwu realm that we don't know about. When he spoke up to hear, he suddenly walked forward and stood at the edge of the cliff before he said in a clear voice, Xianing, if I'm not wrong, your camp has probably encountered a difficult problem, right? His voice was like the morning bell and the evening drum. It reverberated through the heavens and earth, and was heard by Xianing and Xing Tianyuan, who were stationed at the campsite 100,000 feet away. The two of them looked at each other and frowned. Without a doubt, the traversing Sword Gorge and the others on the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain had already sensed some clues. Travel Sword Gorge, all of you are already in such a terrible situation, yet you still have the mood to care about our matters. Don't you think it's very laughable? Xianing said calmly. He wore a monk's robe and had a dignified appearance. He held a string of white jade prayer beads in his hand, and his entire body emanated a lofty, imposing aura that was immovable like a mountain. Ha, it seems like the two of you have indeed encountered something. Otherwise, those two old things, Wu Hongzhi and Xing Tianyuan, would not have left in such a hurry. The traversing sword gorge spoke calmly. Let me guess, did someone seize this opportunity to launch a surprise attack on your territory? In an instant, a trace of seriousness appeared in the eyes of Xin Ing and Xing Tianyuan. How did this old fellow know? Seeing the two of them remain silent, the traversing sword gorge burst into laughter, and his voice resounded in the surroundings with joy. As expected, I've guessed correctly. Fu Nanli and the others revealed surprised expressions as well. Just by looking at Xin Ing and Xing Tianyuan's reactions, they realized that it was very likely that the traversing sword gorge had guessed correctly. However, even they were unable to imagine who in the spirit martial world would be so daring as to make a move against the shaman sect and the Zen sect. It seemed very unbelievable. Of course, it was naturally a great matter for them. What's wrong? Do you think that a small accident in the travel sword gorge can shake our forces? Or perhaps you think that you can escape from the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain just because of this accident? Xing Tianyuan said coldly. The traversing sword gorge was silent for a moment, and then he said with a smile, Wu Hongzi and Wen Zai have already taken action. This is not a small accident. Xing Tianyuan pointed at the huge Great Tao Life Lotus in the sky, and said coldly, in at least half a month, at most 3 months, the top forces of our forces will all return. Under such circumstances, do you think the situation of the Lingwu world can still change? What if? The traversing sword gorge said indifferently. Xing Tianyuan sneered and said no more. The traversing sword gorge turned to look at Fu Nanli and the others beside him, and said, Everyone has heard the conversation before. It can be foreseen that someone will take this opportunity to launch a surprise attack on those hostile forces, and it is a ruthless character that even Wu Hongzi and Wen Zai have to take action. If there is no accident, it should be a boundless realm figure. If that's the case, what happens next will be interesting. Then should we make a move now? Fu Nanli's spirit was lifted, and his killing intent surged. The others were also moved. The traversing sword gorge shook his head. Let's just wait and see. When even Xin Ing and Xing Tianyuan can't sit still, that might be the best time for us to make a move. Fu Nanli thought for a moment and then nodded. When Xin Ing and Xing Tianyuan can't sit still, it means that this unforeseen event is something that Wu Hongzi and Wen Zai can't resolve. If that's the case, when they make a move again, they are very confident that they can sweep the enemy forces clean. What I'm most worried about right now is that we don't know when those old guys who went to the world of the Life Lotus will return. The traversing sword gorge looked at the sea of fate in the sky, and his brows furrowed. After the appearance of the Great Tao Life Lotus for the first 3 times, the fierce battle in the world of the Life Lotus lasted at least half a month, and there was one that lasted for 3 months. And in that fierce battle, there would be people who couldn't hold on, and escaped from the world of the Life Lotus, and returned to the Lingwu world in advance. Now, the 4th battle in the world of the Life Lotus was destined to be the same as before, and there is no telling when the top figures of the enemy forces will return. All of this means that there are variables. It's pointless to worry about all of this now. In my opinion, we just have to wait for an opportunity to make a move. We've already been trapped here for many years, and if we continue to stay here, then we'll only be restrained by our enemies, and it's bound to be impossible for us to seize the opportunity to head to the ruins of Tao. Fu Nanli spoke in a low voice. Instead of that, we should naturally seize every opportunity to seek change. Even if it causes some intense battles, it's enough so long as we can change the situation. Traversing Sword Gorge's eyes narrowed, and he nodded after a long time. Fu Nanli was right. They had been trapped here all this time. They would definitely be restrained by their enemies forever, and this was something that none of them could tolerate. Fortunately, there were still over 800 years before the calamity of the era truly descended, and it was enough for them to wait for the best opportunity to take action. On this day, the nests of the Yi clan, Ju clan, and Minamoto clan were destroyed, and it caused all the enemy forces to be shocked. Especially some of the Eternal God clan's boundless realm existences had headed to the world of the Life Lotus, so only creation realm existences resided in their territories. When they found out that the Yi clan, Ju clan, and Minamoto clan had been destroyed, all the cultivators of the Eternal God clan broke out in cold sweat, and they felt extremely fortunate in their hearts. If such a calamity were to occur in their territories, then they were bound to be unable to escape annihilation. On the other hand, under the arrangements of the two boundless realm existences, Wu Hongzhi and Wenzai, the cultivators of the Zen sect and the other Eternal God clan were arranged to reside on Great Barbaric Mountain that the Shaman sect resided. It was also on this day that Wu Hongzhi resided on Great Barbaric Mountain. Wenzai led 5 lesser boundless realm cultivators and 20 creation realm existences to search for the culprit's track. They moved in a formidable array, and they swept through the heavens and the earth while ceaselessly expanding the scope of their search. They didn't even let the outer area off. It was even to the extent that as far as Wenzai was concerned, it was extremely likely that the culprit was hiding in the outer area. After that, numerous cultivators that were hiding in the outer area were questioned by Wenzai and the others, and they bluntly threatened and warned them. Unfortunately, they all came up empty-handed. Instead, someone said that a creation realm figure moving alone had recently appeared. His face was very unfamiliar, and it was extremely likely that he had just entered the spirit martial realm. But such news was directly overlooked by Wenzai and the others. What kind of joke was this? A creation realm figure could destroy the Yi clan and the other 2 great god clans? In other words, what Wenzai and the others were looking for was a boundless realm existence. And as they continuously expanded the scope of their search, the cultivators scattered in the outer area were practically all interrogated. Although Wenzai and the others did not leak much information, such an action still caused a stir in the entire spirit martial realm. Could it be that someone made a move against those major factions? That must be the case. The great Tao Fate Lotus appeared today, and the top figures of those major factions have already headed to the Sea of Destiny to fight for supremacy. This kind of time is undoubtedly the best opportunity to launch a sneak attack on those major factions. It's just that, who did it? Isn't it a little too audacious? I can't wait for this unforeseen event to intensify. This way, perhaps it can change the situation of the spirit martial realm, and let us have the chance to enter the core area and fight for the opportunity within the great Tao Fate Lotus. All kinds of discussions sounded. Most of those who were distributed in the outer area were at the creation realm, and each of them had lived for tens of thousands of years. How could they not know that there was a great change in the spirit martial realm now? For a moment they were also very excited in their hearts. As long as there was a change, there was bound to be hope to change the situation of the world. The only thing they worried about was that this change would be extinguished by those major factions, and at the same time. In the underground cave of the canyon, Lin Sun waved his sleeve, and the woman in the black dress and other 3 people appeared out of thin air. From now on, I have to trouble you to wait here for a period of time. Lin Sun showed a trace of apology, cupped his hands and said, "Keep adding tonight." Chapter 3170. On the way back, Lin Sun's Greenwood Taoist physique successfully brought the woman in black and the other 3 back. This made Lin Sun feel completely at ease. Now that the Yi, Ju, and Minamoto clans' nests had been destroyed, no one would know that it was Lin Sun's doing in a short period of time. Moreover, those hostile forces wouldn't suspect the Yuan Church, Spirit Church, or Mount Hart. This had achieved Lin Sun's goal. You don't have to be so courteous. If it were us, we would have done the same. The woman in black said hurriedly. They naturally knew that with Lin Sun's methods, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill them. However, Lin Sun didn't do so they didn't have any other thoughts. Don't worry, everyone. Even if there are disasters in the future, I won't leave you alone, Lin Sun said with a smile. Taoist Lin, may I ask what you did to make you so cautious? The man who was as tall as a mountain couldn't help but ask. Lin Sun thought about it and didn't hide anything. He told them about how he destroyed the nests of the Yi and the other two eternal gods. After hearing that, the woman in black and the others were stunned. Their hearts were completely overwhelmed by shock. Even if they racked their brains, they would never have thought that after 19 years, Lin Sun would do such an earth-shattering thing. After a long while, they gradually calmed down. However, their gazes towards Lin Sun were filled with deep respect. Everyone, please do as you please. As Lin Sun spoke, he sat down cross-legged and began to count the spoils of war. In this operation, he'd suppressed 3 minor boundless realm existences, including Ju Wutian and Yi Faidu, and 16 creation realm existences. The spoils of war were extremely plentiful. There were 7 complete divine grade orders and more than 20 eternal Tao soldiers. Apart from that, there were also some divine medicines and divine materials needed for cultivation. All of them were shockingly valuable, enough to satisfy the cultivation of eternal realm existences. Soon, Lin Sun's eyes fell on the white beads that were crystal clear and emitting wisps of life force. This pearl was only the size of a pigeon's egg, but it was refined from 50,000 kilograms of great Tao vitality. This was naturally the great Tao life pearl. Only by wearing this bead would one be able to enter the sea of destiny safely. At the same time, the great Tao life force contained in the great Tao fate pearl was also a kind of inconceivable great Tao power. It could also bring tremendous benefits to boundless realm figures' cultivation. When Lin Sun held the pearl in his hand, he instantly felt a wave of cool and pure energy fluctuation. It was the aura of destiny, and it was mysterious and unfathomable. Perhaps it was possible to refine this power, but to comprehend the profundities of fate was extremely difficult. The reason was that such a life pearl that was refined from 50,000 kilograms of grand Tao vitality merely contained an extremely tiny trace of the profundity of the Tao of destiny. Even if he managed to comprehend it, it would be negligible. That's right. If the law of destiny was so easy to comprehend, those old fellows scattered around the core region would have already grasped the law of destiny. Lin Sun was lost in thought. But no matter what, the great Tao fate pearl was still an extremely rare treasure. He could refine it to strengthen his own cultivation. Similarly, with this treasure in hand, one could directly charge into the ocean of destiny and compete for the critical factor to head to the ruins of Tao. Especially to those cultivators scattered around the outer area, the great Tao fate pearl was absolutely a treasure that they yearned for even in their dreams. Just like at this moment, the gazes of the woman in a black dress and the others faintly carried blazing heat. The color of heat. I'll give these 4 great Tao fate pearls to all of you. Lin Sun casually withdrew 4 great Tao fate pearls and passed them over from afar. The figures of the woman in a black dress and the others shook, and they revealed expressions of joy that were impossible to conceal. Thank you, fellow Taoist Lin. Lin Sun didn't just kill them to keep them quiet, he even gave them a precious treasure like the great Tao fate pearl. This had completely exceeded their imagination. Lin Sun smiled and didn't say anything further. He started to meditate and cultivate. It wasn't suitable for him to continue killing enemies now, otherwise, it would be extremely easy for his identity to be exposed. However, Lin Sun wasn't anxious. So long as nothing unexpected happened on Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, then he had the patience to continue staying in this underground abode and continue wasting time with his enemies. Next, I should consider charging into the boundless realm. Lin Sun pondered as he cultivated. Presently, his cultivation was already at the perfection stage of the creation realm, and he was only a step away from stepping into the threshold of the boundless realm. The boundless realm was derived from the meaning of great freedom, and great boundlessness. This realm was also the ultimate realm of the eternal Tao path, and it was also the end of the Tao path of the world. Since ancient times, even in the various civilizations of the various eras, only a small group of people were able to step foot into this realm. Normally speaking, in order to step foot into this realm, one had to overcome the great desolation, lifeless tribulation before the calamity of an era arrived. However, how could the great desolation, lifeless tribulation be so easy to overcome? Looking at the current world, after sensing the arrival of the great silence, lifeless tribulation, the eternal figures of the 4 ancestral courts, the 12 eternal god clans, and the other forces practically turned out in full force and gathered in the Kunlun ruins ocean of destiny. Why? It was none other than to avoid the threat of the great desolation, lifeless tribulation, and seek an opportunity to enter the ruins of myriad Tao. Even boundless realm figures were no exception. Because as the number of great desolation, lifeless tribulation accumulated, it would be more and more dangerous for them when they encountered the great desolation, lifeless tribulation again. This was also the reason why there were so few figures who could prove their Tao and become boundless realm figures since ancient times. The great desolation, lifeless tribulation was truly too taboo and terrifying, and when one transcended this tribulation, it was usually a narrow escape from death. However, Lin Sun was different. In the river of epochs in the ruins of fate, Lin Sun had already gone through a special 9 Tao tribulations and reached the creation realm in one fell swoop. At the same time, he also had the foundation to transcend the era tribulations. It was common knowledge that the great desolation, lifeless tribulation was born from the era tribulation. When Lin Sun possessed the foundation to transcend the era tribulation, it meant that the great desolation, lifeless tribulation would no longer be able to stop his advancement. Moreover, the 9 supremes Tao tribulations that were born in the river of eras were supreme tribulations that targeted eternal realm figures from the various eras. After Lin Sun overcame this tribulation, his Tao body, soul, cultivation, great Tao, state of mind, and so on and so forth had undergone a complete transformation. Under such circumstances, the method of proving the boundless realm for others was completely unsuitable for Lin Sun. Not to mention that he, who had just attained the creation realm all those years ago, had already suffered a rare great desolation, lifeless tribulation. Not only had he captured and killed the envoy of destiny that had borrowed this tribulation, he had even relied on the power of the river diagram to repel the power of the primordial bell. In short, Lin Sun, who had attained the boundless realm, was no longer affected by the great desolation, lifeless tribulation. It was worth mentioning that it was impossible for the great desolation, lifeless tribulation to appear in the spiritual martial realm. For those creation realm figures, they were doomed to have no chance to attain the boundless realm. But these were not difficult for Lin Sun. At present, the only thing he needed to do to break through the realm was to wait for a contract. A contract. This critical factor didn't come from the outside world, and it came from himself instead. It was like a sudden inspiration, a flash of enlightenment, or a natural breakthrough in his cultivation that would cause the cup to overflow when it's full. But so far, this opportunity hadn't appeared yet. Lin Sun was not in a hurry, nor did he want to force it. What he needed to do was to sort out his own path in waiting, sum up the gains and losses of the past, and settle again and again. Only the ultimate settlement could usher in the ultimate transformation and eruption. As time went by, 3 days passed in a hurry. On this day, Lin Sun, who was meditating, seemed to sense something and suddenly opened his eyes. Outside the canyon, buzz. A dark blue copper lamp floated in the air. Its flame flickered, and ripple-like circles of dark blue flames drifted out of it. Immediately afterward, the circles of blue flames buzzed violently. Seeing this scene, Wenzai and others all showed joy. It was here. In the past 3 days, they almost searched all the core and peripheral areas, but they didn't expect that the enemy was probably hiding in the canyon only thousands of miles away from the Lotus Leaf Mountain. Sometimes, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. From this, it can be seen that our opponents this time are really bold. A cold light appeared in Wenzai's eyes. With a wave of his sleeve, the blue copper lamp fell into his hand. This treasure was called Forbidden Spirit Treasure Lamp, which could sense and detect all the forbidden fluctuations in the world. It was extremely magical. Before, when Wenzai and his party found nothing, they originally planned to return to the vicinity of the Lotus Leaf Mountain and tell the news to Xian Ing and Xing Tianyuan. Who would have thought that just as they passed through this canyon, the Forbidden Spirit Treasure Lamp in Wenzai's hand buzzed. And now they all dared to conclude that the enemy who annihilated Yi Clan, Ju Clan, and Minamoto Clan was very likely to be hiding under this canyon. All of you back off and seal off the area around this canyon. Don't panic even if something unexpected happens later. Wenzai gave the order via voice transmission. The 5 lesser boundless realm existences and the 20 creation realm powerhouses beside him all took the order and moved. They dispersed and guarded the surroundings of the canyon, waiting for the enemy. Wenzai stood alone in the air above the canyon and suddenly took a deep breath. Clang! A Taoist sword swept out, like a dazzling light tearing the mountains and rivers of the world. Immediately after, this Taoist sword smashed down from the sky and stabbed into the ground. Boom! The whole canyon suddenly collapsed, rocks turned into powder, smoke and dust billowed, and the ground was dug open like tofu, revealing an unfathomably huge hole. After that, a wave of violent collisions and rumbling resounded from the depths of the enormous hole, and then countless dazzling and blazing fluctuations of restrictions charged out like a volcanic eruption. In an instant, the surging energy of restrictions transformed into a torrent of energy that shot through space and swept out like a gale. The figures of all the cultivators that were on guard in the vicinity couldn't help but shake while they revealed shocked expressions. What a terrifying energy of restrictions! Bang! Before they could recover from their shock, the Taoist sword that Wenzai utilized earlier seemed as if it had suffered a heavy blow, and it was blasted flying fiercely from the hole in the ground. At this moment, Wenzai couldn't help but be moved. The eternal Taoist sword that he utilized with his strength at the boundless realm was actually unable to break through the energy of the restrictions beneath the ground. More updates for you Literature Hall. Chapter 3171. Boom. The surroundings of the canyon had long collapsed into ruins. The earth was overturned, and a torrent of restriction power erupted, releasing a power that could destroy heaven and earth. What a strong restriction power! This time, there were 5 lesser boundless realm existences and 20 creation realm powerhouses with Wenzai. When they felt this destructive aura, their faces changed. And at this moment, a tall figure appeared out of thin air, his whole body shrouded in brilliant light, like a god descending to the world. This person was naturally Lin Sun. When he saw Wenzai and the others, he sighed in his heart. It had only been 3 days, and the enemy had come to him. This was completely beyond his expectations, and also made him realize that no matter how meticulous the plan and layout was, there might be accident. How can it be just a creation realm character? Wenzai revealed a look of surprise. In his expectation, this time, it was very likely that many greater boundless realm figures acted together to destroy the territories of the Yi clan, the Ju clan, and the Minamoto clan, and kill a heaven-defying figure like Ju Wutian. But who would have thought that the situation seemed a little wrong? Ancestor Wenzai, this person is Lin Sun, the remnant of Fangtsuan Mountain. Suddenly, someone cried out in surprise. What, it's actually him? This little bastard has actually arrived at the spiritual martial realm? Ha ha ha, this time, the heavens are really helping us. The others were restless, revealing a look of joy. One by one, they looked at Lin Sun with unconcealable excitement, as if they had found a prey that they had been longing for a long time. Lin Sun. In these years, the person that these great forces hated the most was definitely Lin Sun. More than 10 years ago, when they learned that Lin Sun alone swept all the major divine clans in the 9th heaven, causing great damage to the witchcraft and Zen sect, These old guys were trembling with anger and were about to go crazy. If it weren't for the fact that they couldn't get out of this spiritual martial realm, they would have already killed their way to the eternal world. Even Wen Zai was stunned for a moment, and then he couldn't help but reveal a look of joy on his face. This was truly too surprising. Who would have thought that they would accidentally catch such a big fish? Ha 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 ha. Wen Zai started laughing. The more he laughed, the happier he was, and the more excited he was. He hadn't been this happy in a very long time. If it was anyone else who was surrounded and heard this horrifying laughter, their scalp would probably go numb, and they would be filled with terror and despair. But Lin Sun also laughed and said, "Do you think that victory is in your hands now? Wouldn't killing you be as easy as flipping my hand?" A black-haired old man in a fiery robe shouted and slapped Lin Sun across the air. This was a minor boundless realm existence called Sangyoji. In the past few years, he'd always been guarding the vicinity of Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain with Yuan Zhongqi, Yang Heng, and Tai Haoju. But now, he directly took action, which showed how eager he was to kill Lin Sun. Boom! Violet divine radiance soared into the sky and condensed into a palm that blotted out the sky. The fluctuations of the energy of the laws condensed within it caused space to collapse and resound with ear-piercing explosions. This palm could be said to be incomparably domineering, displaying the strength of a minor boundless realm existence to the fullest. But Lin Sun said coldly, "You overestimate yourself." Boom! The restriction of God judgment that covered the ground beneath the gorge rumbled as a myriad of rays of light surged out, and it actually forcefully blocked this violet palm that blotted out the sky. On the other hand, Lin Sun's figure had already teleported through the air, and he was like a bolt of lightning that tore through the sky as he charged towards Sangyoji. "Ha! You said I overestimate myself? Little bastard, is this any different from an ant trying to shake a tree?" Sangyoji spoke with disdain. His eyes were suffused with a shocking cold light as his sleeve fluttered, and then he slapped his palm towards Lin Sun, who was charging towards him. A figure at the creation realm was truly insufficient to deal with a minor boundless realm figure like him. Dodge quickly! But at this moment, Wen Zai's warning resounded. But his warning was a step too late. Before Sangyoji could react, Lin Sun had already raised his fist and smashed it over. Bang! A peerlessly resplendent fist energy swept out, and it seemed all-conquering and all-powerful as it directly pierced through Sangyoji's palm strike. Sangyoji's right hand and his entire right arm exploded at a speed visible to the naked eye, and blood splattered everywhere. The terrifying fist energy wreaked havoc, and it broke through Sangyoji's defense and treasures, causing explosions that sounded like dense drum beats to resound. As an existence at the minor boundless realm, Sangyoji's reaction couldn't be said to be slow. In a situation where he was heavily injured, he decisively gave up resisting and let out an explosive roar as he dodged with all his might. But what made him despair was that accompanying Lin Sun's punch was an expanse of sword intent that was as vast as the sea, and it had already enveloped him from all directions. Is this the power that a creation realm can possess? Such a thought flashed through Sangyoji's mind, and it revealed extreme shock, unwillingness, and bewilderment. Then, the vast expanse of sword intent drowned his entire body, and all his consciousness vanished. And in the eyes of the others, they saw Lin Sun leap out and suppress a minor boundless realm existence like Sangyoji with just the power of a single punch. That overwhelming and domineering posture shocked everyone. Previously, they were still ecstatic that they had seen through Lin Sun's identity, and their faces were full of smiles. But these smiles froze at this moment, and even their minds twitched violently. How was this possible? Since when could a creation realm existence be so heaven-defying as to defeat a minor boundless realm existence with a single punch? This subverted everyone's understanding. Now, why aren't you laughing? Lin Sun stood where he was, glancing at the people around him with indifferent eyes. Everyone's expression was gloomy and unsightly. Lin Sun's punch was like a bolt of lightning, waking them up from their ecstasy. No wonder you were able to sweep across the ninth heaven when you were at the transcendent realm. A heaven-defying character like you really can't be measured by common sense. In the distance, Wenzai said expressionlessly, "If my guess is right, it was you who destroyed the territories of the Yi clan, the Ju clan and the Minamoto clan, right?" Everyone's eyes narrowed. Previously, they were only focused on being happy. They didn't associate a creation realm figure like Lin Sun with the murderer who destroyed the territories of the Yi clan and the other two clans. Lin Sun was just one person, and he only had the cultivation of the creation realm. How could he do this? But now, after seeing the scene of Tsangyoji, a minor boundless realm existence, being killed, they finally realized where they were wrong. This Lin Sun wasn't a character that could be measured by common sense at all. When he was at the transcendent realm, he could sweep across the ninth heaven. Now, he was already at the great perfection of the creation realm. Not to mention anything else, just this breakthrough speed was already shocking, causing these old guys who had lived for countless years to shudder with fear. If I say no, I'm afraid you won't believe me. Since that's the case, why bother talking nonsense? Lin Sun said indifferently. As he spoke, he took out the abyssal sword cauldron, and his tall figure released terrifying fluctuations of power. His eyes were cold as he scanned the audience. Now, I really want to try and see if you all have the life to stop me. His voice shook the nine heavens, and Lin Sun had already attacked brazenly, directly killing another minor boundless realm existence nearby. This was a man in a black divine gold battle armor, called Yang Heng, holding a golden halberd in his hand. After witnessing the scene of Tsangyoji being killed, he had long been vigilant. Seeing Lin Sun charging over, he directly waved the golden halberd and attacked with all his strength. Boom! Golden halberd shadows appeared all over the sky, turning into layers of illusory worlds. The dazzling power of rules shocked the world, and the destructive power it set off spread like a vast ocean. Clang! But such an attack was directly blasted away by the abyssal sword cauldron, and the golden halberd was shaken to the point of buzzing, almost flying out of his hand. Yang Heng's entire body staggered back, and his vital energy and blood roiled. Unlike Tsangyoji from before, he didn't have the slightest bit of carelessness, and he used his full strength right from the start. But in a head-on clash with his minor boundless realm cultivation, he actually couldn't withstand a single attack from Lin Sun. This caused his expression to change, and he realized how terrifying Lin Sun's battle prowess was. Arrogant! Not far away, Wenzai's expression was cold as he controlled the Dao sword to attack. Boom! Silver lightning that was like a spider web appeared all over the sky, densely packed and thick as a child's arm. All of them were condensed from the power of rules, and it was enough to make a minor boundless realm cultivator tremble in fear. And in this violent silver lightning, Wenzai's Dao sword had already pierced over. Its speed was even faster, and its lethality was even more terrifying. It was like a sharp light that pierced through the ages. Kill! Kill! And at the same time, the other three minor boundless realm cultivators moved out together, and they were respectively Tai Haoju, Yuan Zhongqi, and Pan Wuxiu. Each of them took out their Dao weapons and executed their supreme abilities. And those creation realm cultivators joined forces and formed a battle formation, and they spread out far away, sealing off all paths of retreat in all directions. Under such circumstances, even if a great boundless realm cultivator was trapped within, he was also destined to be unable to escape even if he grew wings. Lin Sun had no plans to escape. Moreover, he still charged towards Chaoyang Heng. Boom! When Wenzai brandished his Dao sword and charged over, Greenwood and Platinum, the two great Dao bodies, swept out together, forcefully blocking Wenzai's attack. And at the same time, Blackwater, Crimson Fire, and Yellow Earth, the three great Dao bodies, charged out together, blocking the attacks of Tai Haoju, Yuan Zhongqi, and Pan Wuxiu, these three minor boundless realm existences, one by one. Rumble, an intense battle erupted. Lin Sun and his 5 great Tao bodies resisted the group of boundless realm existences. That scene left those creation realm existences in the distance dumbfounded. It could even be like this? Damn it. And Wen Zai, who was being restrained by Greenwood and the Platinum Tao body, had an ugly expression. With his cultivation and strength, he was actually unable to break through the combined attacks of Lin Sun's 2 clones for a while. Looking at Tai Haoju, Yuan Zhongqi, and Pan Wuxiu, the 3 minor boundless realm existences, all of them actually fell into a disadvantageous position in the battle. Their situation was perilous, and they were completely suppressed and beaten by Lin Sun's 3 great Tao bodies. This scene made even Wen Zai's hair stand on end. They were just Tao clones, but each of them had strength not weaker than the original body. This made Wen Zai recall Zhu Wutian, who was killed by Lin Sun. Such a heaven-defying figure comparable to a great boundless realm existence was probably killed by the joint attacks of Lin Sun and his clones, and this undoubtedly meant that the combat strength Lin Sun possessed now was also enough to kill a great boundless realm existence like him. Just as Wen Zai thought of this, he saw, boom, the body of Yang Heng, who had been attacked by Lin Sun's original body, was forcefully smashed apart by Lin Sun's punch. Blood splattered all over the sky like a waterfall, scarlet and horrifying. Chapter 3172. Far away from Lotus Leaf Mountain, in the enemy's camp. Xining and Xing Tianyuan's eyes narrowed. They sensed that there was a shocking battle far away from here. They immediately released their divine consciousness and swept it over. It's Wen Zai and the others. Xining was surprised. It seems that they have found the enemy's traces. Xing Tianyuan's eyes lit up. That enemy is really audacious. He actually dared to hide in the vicinity of Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. It's him, Lin Sun. Xining was shocked. She sensed the situation in the canyon and saw Lin Sun's figure rushing out of the underground cave. How could it be? Xing Tianyuan was stunned as well, and he was greatly surprised. Could it be that we didn't discover the enemy by chance and caught a big fish instead? Interesting. Xian Ying revealed a smile. The current situation is always unexpected. After we capture Lin Sun, the lotus that the Master of Heart has been waiting for ages is destined to wither. Should we go for a walk? Xing Tianyuan couldn't sit still. Wen Zai's strength is more than enough to deal with a nobody in creation realm. What we need to do now is to be on guard against the Lotus Leaf Mountain in the distance. As he spoke, Xining looked at the Lotus Leaf Mountain. We have already sensed such a movement. How can the old things like Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli not sense it? However, they wouldn't dare to spread out their divine sense like us. In this case, as long as we attack, we can severely injure their divine sense. Xing Tianyuan laughed. In this case, I'm afraid that they don't know that the one they are going to deal with in the battle far away is Lin Sun. Exactly. Xining also laughed. Lin Sun, a young man who made these boundless realm existences gnash their teeth with hatred, dared to come to the realm of spiritual martial. What was the difference between this and courting death? Oh no. Suddenly, the smile on Xing Tianyuan's face froze. He sensed in his spiritual awareness the scene of Lin Sun suppressing Tsang Yoji with one blow. This caused his heart to tremble. A minor boundless realm existence was actually defeated by a grand completion creation realm young man with a single strike. This was simply universally shocking. Could it be that it was this kid who destroyed the territories of the Yi, Ju, and Minamoto clans 3 days ago? Xian Ying's face was clouded and she was bewildered. Then, in their divine senses, a great battle broke out on the other side of the canyon. When they saw Lin Sun dispatch his 5 clones to forcefully resist Wen Zai and the other lesser boundless realm powerhouses, Xian Ying and Xing Tianyuan were no longer able to remain calm. They looked at each other and made a judgment. The destruction of the territories of Yi and the other two Protoss clans was destined to be Lin Sun's doing. However, even they didn't expect that Lin Sun's combat power would be so powerful. If one were to say that Zhu Wutian was heaven-defying, it was also because he possessed the cultivation of a minor boundless realm. Being able to stand shoulder to shoulder with a greater boundless realm existence was also understandable. But Lin Sun, a creation realm existence, could resist the siege of a group of powerful figures by himself, which was too shocking. Damn it! And when he saw the scene of Yang Heng being suppressed, Xin could no longer remain calm. He stood up abruptly. We must take action. He could already see that the situation was not good. Let's go. Xing Tianyuan's expression was also ugly. He stood up and moved through the void with Xin, speeding away into the distance. On Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. When the battle fluctuations appeared in the canyon, it was also sensed by Travel Sword Gorge, Fu Nanli, and the other greater boundless realm existences, and they could not help but feel bewildered. What happened in the distance? But when they sensed that Xin and Xing Tianyuan had been sitting there all along, not moving at all, they had no choice but to resist the urge to release their divine senses to investigate. Divine senses came from the primordial spirit. Once released, they would definitely be attacked by Xin and Xing Tianyuan. Travel Sword Gorge and the others could only resist the urge to investigate and choose to wait. Very quickly they noticed that something was wrong. Xin and Xing Tianyuan actually walked out of the camp and hurriedly flew into the distance. Something big must have happened that caused these two old bastards to be unable to sit still. Fu Nanli said excitedly. Brother Xing, it's time to move out, right? Travel Sword Gorge's gaze swept across the people around him. Every one of them was restless, their eyes filled with the desire to fight. These few years they had been trapped for too long. Too much grievance and anger had accumulated in their hearts. Now that such an opportunity had appeared, who could still sit still? All right. This time, Travel Sword Gorge did not object anymore and agreed happily. Brother Rin, Brother Gu, you guys stay here with fellow Taoist Shun and fellow Taoist Shuiyi. I'll go over there with Brother Fu. Travel Sword Gorge instructed. The brothers he spoke of were Rin Futian and Gu Yueshi. The former was at the greater boundless realm, while the latter was at the lesser boundless realm. They were both elders of the Yuan sect. As for fellow Taoist Shun and fellow Taoist Shuiyi, they were spirit sects Shun Huaijia and Shuiyi, both lesser boundless realm existences. All right. Hearing Travel Sword Gorge's arrangements, Ren Futian, Gu Yueshi, Shun Huaijia, and Shuiyi, these four boundless realm existences, all agreed. Everyone, you guys stay here too. Travel Sword Gorge looked at Ruosu and the other successors of Fangtsuan Mountain. Ruosu, Li Xianwei, Pu Jin, and the others all nodded. They also knew that this was a rare opportunity. If they grasped it, it was very likely to change their current situation. Even if they couldn't, with the capabilities of Travel Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli, these two greater boundless realm existences, they could also safely return to Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Let's go. Immediately, Travel Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli soared into the sky. The moment they left Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, the hearts of these two old antiques who had lived for who knew how many years surged with boiling hot blood and fighting spirit. After being trapped for so many years, with their pride, how could they not feel humiliated? And now it was time to make a trip there. 3 days ago, when Lin Sun stepped onto the purple electricity divine mountain occupied by the Yi clan, he easily suppressed the lesser boundless realm existence, Yi Faidu, with the strength of his main body. And in this battle, Yang Heng, this lesser boundless realm existence, also followed in the footsteps of Tsang Yoji, being defeated by Lin Sun in a steady and domineering manner. This scene caused everyone's expression to change. When Zai tried his best, but he couldn't get rid of the restraint of green wood and platinum Taoist bodies. Before, he could only watch Yang Heng being defeated. And Tai Hao Ju and other lesser boundless realm existences had been suppressed by Lin Sun's other 3 Taoist bodies. They were in a dangerous situation and couldn't protect themselves. How could they have a chance to stop all this from happening? As for the 20 creation realm existences in the distance, it was impossible for them to intervene at all. With the defeat of Yang Heng, these people all realized that the situation was not good. Whoosh! Without any delay, Lin Sun rushed to Tai Hao Ju, who was suppressed by the scarlet flame Taoist body. Tai Hao Ju's face changed immediately. A scarlet flame Taoist body had seriously injured him. If Lin Sun's main body was added, he would definitely die. Just at this time, "How dare you, thief!" With a roar, Xing Tianyuan took the lead to attack. He released his cultivation of the greater boundless realm, just like a dominator who could shake the heavens. Boom! He directly took out a cyan jade-like saber and chopped at Lin Sun through the air. The saber light set off the monstrous brilliance of the rules, dazzling and extremely fierce. This scene stirred up the crowd. Wen Zai also breathed a sigh of relief and was refreshed. Clang! Lin Sun drove the abyssal sword cauldron to resist, but he was shaken by the cyan saber and stepped back a few steps. His blood and qi were rolling all over his body. What a horrible power this old thing had! Lin Sun's face changed slightly. This blow also saved Tai Hao Ju's life, allowing him to take the opportunity to escape. His whole body was in a cold sweat, and he felt that he had survived a disaster. Go to hell! Xing Tianyuan was too powerful. His majestic figure tore the sky like a domineering cyan rainbow. He controlled the saber and chopped down angrily. Lin Sun and the Scarlet Fire Taoist body rushed up together to block Xing Tianyuan's attack. At this moment, Lin Sun immediately judged that Xing Tianyuan's combat power was even stronger than Zhu Wutian's, and he was not inferior to Ying Shanying when he went all out. But this was not the end. As soon as Xing Tianyuan arrived at this battlefield, a black alms bowl came across the sky and rotated in the void. Then a stream of sword qi whistled out, all of which were filled with holy Buddha light. The sound of the sword was like the chanting of Sanskrit, resounding all over the world. Bang bang bang! The sword qi whistled out like a tide, and it instantly caught the Blackwater Taoist physique and the Yellow Earth Taoist physique off guard. Both of them were suppressing Yuan Zhongqi and Panwu, so they had no choice but to dodge in a sorry state when they suffered the attack of this supreme sword qi. In this way, Yuan Zhongqi and Panwu, who had been seriously injured, were also saved, and they were all excited. But Lin Sun's face became gloomy. Xian Yingsha came with a solemn look, holding the black alms bowl in his hand. His whole body was blooming with Buddha light, like the legendary Supreme Buddha, mighty and mighty. Let's kill him together first. Xing Tianyuan stepped toward Lin Sun with a murderous aura. The cyan saber in his hand buzzed like thunder and slashed hundreds of times in an instant. The saber shadows covered the sky and the earth, and the cyan power of rules submerged the entire area. Bah! At the same time, Xian Yingsha also urged the Black Alms Bowl to attack Lin Sun. Oh, I'm not afraid of you! Lin Sun took a deep breath and attacked with the 3 Taoist bodies. Boom! The war broke out. The sky was dark, the sun and the moon were dim, the nearby mountains and rivers collapsed, the earth sank, and huge ravines and cracks appeared. In the field, Lin Sun's Greenwood Taoist body and Platinum Taoist body fought against Wen Zai. Lin Sun and Red Fire Taoist body fought against Xing Tianyuan together. Black Water Taoist body and Yellow Taoist body attacked Xian Yingsha together. Such a war was so terrible that Tai Hao Ju, Yuan Zhongqi, and Panwu Xiong couldn't get involved. They could only watch from a distance, and their expressions changed constantly. It was true that they were in small boundless realm, but they were all seriously injured now. If they fought again, They might even lose their lives if Lin Sun fought back desperately. Chapter 31:73. Heaven and earth shook, mountains and rivers withered and were destroyed. This was a pinnacle battle on the path of the eternal Tao. Wen Zai, Xin, and Xing Tianyuan who were in battle were great figures that stood at the ultimate realm of the eternal Tao, and they possessed the might to look down upon all living beings in the world. Figures like them had long since been able to walk through numerous eras and look down on the world. A single thought was sufficient to overturn the world, pluck the stars from the moon, and destroy worlds. They were practically omnipotent. But now they, the supreme giants, were fought by Lin Sun alone. And Lin Sun was only at the great completion of creation realm. Anyone who saw this scene would find it hard to believe, and their common sense would be overturned. It was unbelievable. Just like at this moment, even if they were enemies, minor boundless realm existences like Tai Hao Ju and Pan Wuxiu, their minds were trembling incessantly. He had seen heaven-defying people, but he had never seen such a heaven-defying one. As for the 20 creation realm existences in the distance, they had already lost their composure. Compared with Lin Sun, who was at the same realm, they were so ashamed that they could die. Rumble, the battle grew even more intense. The heavens and the earth were filled with surging and boundless torrents of energy, while the energy of various laws collided. It was simply like numerous worlds were colliding, and it caused countless phenomena of destruction to arise. Fortunately, this was the spirit martial realm, and the rule power that covered it came from the Kunlun ruins' origin. It was enough to withstand the battle between eternal figures. If this had happened in the outside world, who knew how many worlds and planes would have been destroyed, and how many living beings would have lost their lives because of this? Kill! At this moment, Xin, Xing Tianyuan, and Wen Zai were enraged from the battle, and all of them utilized their strongest abilities. With their status and strength, it was disgraceful that they failed to defeat Lin Sun in one fell swoop. However, Lin Sun's combat power was so powerful that they couldn't tolerate his survival at all. Thinking about it, just at the creation realm, he could contend with a great boundless realm existence. If he was allowed to affirm his Tao and reach the boundless realm, how terrifying would that be? In such a battle, Lin Sun and his Great Path clone were in a bad situation. If they were dealing with a boundless realm existence, with the strength of him and his Great Tao clone, it was enough to annihilate them. However, when he faced 3 of them, he found it strenuous and paled in comparison. In particular, whether it was Xin, Xing Tianyuan, or Wen Zai, all of their battle prowess was stronger than Zhu Wutian's, and they weren't inferior to Shannying in his desperate state. All this brought great pressure to Lin. In the end, no matter how heaven-defying his combat power was, he was only at the creation realm in the end. Perhaps he could easily kill a minor boundless realm existence. However, when faced with characters in the boundless realm who had stepped foot into the ultimate realm of the eternal path of the Tao, the huge gap between their realms was revealed. However, the more it was like this, the more potential and fighting spirit of Lin Sun was stimulated. Tempering oneself in a hopeless situation, fighting on the edge of life and death, would allow a person's potential and combat strength to be released to an unprecedented extent. For Lin Sun, this was the most stressful and dangerous battle he had ever encountered since he reached the creation realm. All of this caused his energy, essence, spirit, and potential to blaze and boil, and they were circulated to their limits. He saw. His figure was shining like an abyss. Although he was in a disadvantageous situation, the more he fought, the braver he became, so that Xin and the others couldn't take him down in a short time. And the more it was like this, the more angry and fearful Xin and the more determined their killing intent became. The power Lin Sun showed was too strong. Since ancient times, it was the first time they had encountered such a troublesome and heaven-defying young man, who subverted their understanding of countless years of cultivation. How could he be so powerful? The the more Tai Hao Ju and Pan Wuxiu watched, the more frightened they became. They had lived for tens of thousands of years and seen many peerless monsters, but there was no one as powerful as Lin Sun. If we don't get rid of this guy, the situation of the spiritual martial realm will change, Yuan Zhongqi murmured. Lin Sun alone could fight against 3 boundless realm figures. If he joined forces with those old guys on the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, the consequences would be unimaginable. Wait. If Xin Ing and Xing Tianyuan came, didn't it mean that there was no one stationed near the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain? Thinking of this, Yuan Zhongqi felt a chill all over and suddenly looked back. It was at this moment, a bright red flying sword flashed in the air. At the moment Yuan Zhongqi looked back, his head was cut off, and even his body and spirit were crushed by the bright red sword intent. In the distance, Fu Nanli's tall figure appeared, his sleeves fluttering, and his momentum was like the sky. Oh no! Dodge! Pan Wuxiu and Tai Hao Ju, who were watching the battle, were shocked. Their expressions changed greatly, and they immediately moved and dodged with all their strength. Boom! However, Pan Wuxiu's figure was still halfway when a dazzling pagoda covered in thunder torrents had already pressed down from the air, and forcefully smashed his figure into pieces. The destructive power released by the violent thunder rules crushed his body and spirit into powder, leaving nothing behind. Next to the Thunder Pagoda, the figure of Xing Jian Gorge appeared, surrounded by the light of the Tao, as if he had come from a sacred place. Only Tai Hao Ju survived, but when he saw the scene of Pan Wuxiu and Yuan Zhongqi dying, his face turned pale, and his scalp went numb. Xing Jian Gorge, you and Fu Nanli dare to walk out of Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Are you planning to start an all-out war with us? Xin Ing was shocked and angry, and his solemn face turned green. Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli's arrival made them all feel that something was wrong. Lin Sun alone was already so difficult to deal with, and with the addition of 2 boundless realm existences, the situation on the battlefield changed. Lin Sun's spirit was roused, and he fought even more fiercely. So what if we start an all-out war? Do you really think it's the same as before? As Xing Jian Gorge spoke, he held the Thunder Pagoda in his hand and charged over, directly attacking Xin Ing. Kill! Fu Nanli didn't waste any time. With a wave of his sleeve, a bright red flying sword swept out, slashing towards Pan Wuxiu. At the same time, his sleeves fluttered and countless divine chains of rules were lifted, attacking the 20 creation realm powerhouses in the distance. Only by getting rid of these characters first could they prevent them from running back to ask for reinforcements. All of a sudden, the battlefield became completely chaotic. Xin Ing, Wenzai, and Xing Tianyuan's reinforcements were being held back by Lin Sun and his great Dao clone. Now that Xing Jian Gorge had appeared, it made it even more difficult for them to free up their hands. And under such circumstances, Fu Nanli's side showed a situation of crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The first to suffer was Pan Wuxiu. He had long been severely injured, and when Fu Nanli charged over, he immediately fled, not daring to stay at all. But he was a step too late. Or rather, even if he fled, it would be futile, because his opponent was Fu Nanli, a boundless realm existence of the spiritual church. Pooh! In the blink of an eye, as that bright red flying sword slashed down, Pan Wuxiu's entire body was split open. Blood splattered, and then it was crushed into powder by the domineering sword intent. And the 20 creation realm existences that had been stationed in the nearby area had long since seen that the situation was not good, and they fled in all directions. But unfortunately, they weren't Lin Sun, and they weren't Zhu Wutian. They didn't have the heaven-defying battle prowess that could contend against boundless realm existences. Streams of nomological power that resembled divine chains swept out, easily piercing through the figures, killing them on the spot without any hesitation. Finally, the 20 creation realm existences were slaughtered cleanly. That bloody scene caused Xin Wenzai and Xing Tianyuan's eyes to almost pop out of their sockets. How could they have imagined that the situation would develop to such an extent? The crux was Lin Sun. He was just a single person, and yet he restrained 3 boundless realm existences, to the extent that when Fu Nanli and Travel Sword Gorge charged over, they were completely powerless to protect Pan Wuxiu and the others. Go! Xin shouted. The situation had already changed completely, and they could not delay any longer. Want to leave? How can it be that easy? Fu Nanli had long since charged over, activating the red flying sword and slashing towards Xin. In terms of battle prowess, Fu Nanli and Travel Sword Gorge, the 2 boundless realm existences, were slightly stronger than Xin, Wenzai, and Xing Tianyuan. The ones who could truly threaten them were the Zen sect's Xin Hu, the Shaman sect's Lei Song, and the others. Unfortunately, Xin Hu, Lei Song, and the others had already gone to the world of life Lotus 3 days ago, and were destined to not appear at this moment. Of course, if it was a one-on-one battle, and Xin and the others wanted to escape, Fu Nanli and Travel Sword Gorge would not be able to stop them. But it was different now. Lin Sun and his great Dao clone had already pinned down the 3 old fellows, and this also gave Fu Nanli and Travel Sword Gorge a chance. Rumble the battle became more and more intense. Xin was originally fighting Lin Sun's Black Water and Yellow Earth Taoist physique, but as Travel Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli charged over, they all pointed their spears at him alone, causing his situation to suddenly become precarious. Not long after, Xin was riddled with injuries, but he was a boundless realm existence, after all. Although he was constantly injured, he was still extremely strong, and it was difficult to completely kill him in a short time. However, Xin's heart had already sunk to the bottom. He realized that he could not escape today. You too, let me send you off. Xin's eyes flashed with determination. He decided to sacrifice his life to send Wenzai and Xing Tianyuan away. This way, he could preserve more strength for their camp. However, just as he was about to risk his life, figures flew over from afar. It was Ren Futian, Gu Yueshi, Xuanhui Jia, and Shui Yi who were guarding the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Among them, Ren Futian was a boundless realm existence. All of a sudden, Xin could not help but reveal a bitter expression. Even if he went to risk his life now, he might not be able to send Wenzai and Xing Tianyuan away. You guys guard nearby, I'll go kill the enemy. As soon as he arrived, Ren Futian, who had a boundless realm cultivation, directly charged into the battlefield, waving a bronze battle spear towards Xing Tianyuan. As for Gu Yueshi and the other 2, they guarded the surroundings from afar. It was true that they were in the lesser boundless realm, but if they attacked with all their strength, they could also block the retreat of a greater boundless realm existence. Even if they could only block for an extremely short period of time, under the current situation, it was already enough, and the situation of the entire battlefield began to completely reverse at this moment. It became Xin, Xing Tianyuan, and Steadfast Ju. The 3 greater boundless realm existences were heavily surrounded. 3 consecutive updates were delivered. On the first day of the month, Goldfish earnestly asks everyone to cast a guaranteed monthly vote. Thanks. Chapter 3174. Only a quarter of an hour later. Xin let out a long sigh. I didn't fight to go to the ruins of Tao, but I died in the sea of fate. His sorrowful sigh reverberated in the air. His imposing figure fell apart and dissipated into thin air like smoke. Lin Sun felt pity for him. If the body and primordial spirit of such a boundless realm existence were to be refined, what kind of pure and thick eternal source energy would be obtained? Just you wait, Travel Sword Gorge. When the powerhouses of our forces return, it will be the death of your Yuan Church, Spirit Church, and Mind Mountain. Xing Tianyuan roared. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair was disheveled, His body was covered with wounds, and his face was grim and livid. The battle had left him with only madness and unwillingness. No one paid attention to his shouts and threat. After destroying exhilarating, Travel Sword Gorge, Fu Nanli and Lin Sun's 2 Tao bodies attacked Xing Tianyuan. Together with Lin Sun and Red Fire Tao body, who were fighting with Xing Tianyuan, Xing Tianyuan's entire figure was submerged in a terrifying torrent of power. In a flash, Xing Tianyuan, a boundless realm being, also perished. Only Wenzai was left in the field. Facing Travel Sword Gorge, Fu Nanli, Ren Futian, Lin Sun, and his 5 Tao bodies, Wenzai couldn't help but reveal a look of despair. He said angrily, "If it wasn't for Lin Sun, how could you have a chance to turn things around?" Boom. The next moment, Wenzai was killed and turned into ashes. There was no other way. His opponents were too strong. Under their joint attack, even a boundless realm being like him couldn't withstand it. Awesome. Travel Sword Gorge laughed loudly. Dust and smoke surged in the surroundings, and the scene of desolation was everywhere. In this battlefield that was like ruins, they'd become the final winners. This battle was indeed an unprecedented victory. It was also the biggest victory these old guys had achieved since they entered the realm of spiritual martial arts. On the enemy's side, 3 greater boundless realm beings, Xianning, Wenzai, and Xing Tianyuan, died. Tai Hao Ju, Yuan Zhongqi, Pan Wuxiu, Song Yoji, and Yang Heng, 5 lesser boundless realm beings, died. Apart from that, there were also 20 creation realm experts that had been slaughtered. And on their side, no one was injured. In other words, this was a complete victory that could shine for generations to come and shock the ages. How could Sword Traversing Gorge not be excited and happy? Why don't we take this opportunity to kill our way into their lair and destroy all their remaining forces? Fu Nanli wasn't satisfied, and his fighting spirit didn't diminish. It depends on Lin Sun, my little friend. Xing Jingu looked at Lin Sun with a smile. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Xing Jingu, and the founder of Yuan religion is my master. He pointed at Ren Futian beside him. He is my junior brother, Ren Futian. In terms of seniority in the Yuan clan, the 2 of us are much older than you. At least, Yan Ji is only a grand disciple in front of us. Ha! With that, Xing Jiangu could not help but laugh. However, you're the disciple of the Master of the Heart sect, and the Master of the Heart sect is of the same generation as my master, the Patriarch of the Yuan sect. In this way, the seniority between us is equal. Even so, how could Lin dare to treat the old man who had lived for tens of thousands of years in Sword Gorge as his peer? He hurriedly cupped his hands to salute Xing Jiangu and Ren Futian. Greetings, seniors. At the same time, he thought to himself, if I really treat you as my peer, won't I become Senior Yan Ji's grand disciple in the future? Wouldn't he become my grand disciple then? It would be a mess. Xing Jiangu didn't care about being called a senior. Seniority was a subtle thing in the whole cultivation world, and it was impossible to take it seriously. He pointed at Fu Nanli with a smile and said, "This is Fu Nanli, the eldest disciple of the Patriarch of the Spirit sect. Greetings, senior." Lin Sun cupped his hands to salute. Fu Nanli stepped forward and patted Lin Sun's shoulder enthusiastically. "My young friend, your combat power really opened my eyes. To be honest, I can't believe that you, a young man in Creation Realm, could resist the siege of Xining and the other 2 old guys by yourself. It's amazing." He was not stingy with his praise at all. Speaking of the previous battle, Xing Jiangu and Ren Futian were also touched. They all knew that the key to the outcome of the battle was Lin Sun. If it wasn't for his appearance, they would still be guarding the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. They wouldn't have the chance to fight and could only choose to hide and endure. Similarly, if it wasn't for Lin Sun restraining the 3 old guys, Xining, Wenzai, and Xing Tianyuan, they wouldn't have the chance to kill him. It could be said that Lin Sun had made great contributions in this battle. At this moment, Gu Yuesheng, Xuanhui Jia, and Shui Yi also rushed over and introduced themselves to Lin Sun with a smile. Lin Sun returned their greetings and said, "Seniors, please don't thank me. If you really want to thank me, I would like to thank the senior brothers and sisters who have been protecting my mountain of heart and soul all these years." As he said this, he bowed seriously. He had long heard that the Yuan sect and the Spirit sect didn't abandon their senior brothers and sisters even when they were threatened and attacked by the enemy. How could he not be grateful? "Ha ha ha, you're too polite. You're not as arrogant as you were in the battle just now." Xing Jian Gorge, Fu Nanli, and the others all laughed. The victory of this battle made them feel relieved and comfortable. The haze and humiliation that had accumulated in their hearts over the years had mostly dissipated. Under such circumstances, they looked at Lin Sun more and more pleasing to the eye. "How about it, my young friend? Do you want to go to the enemy's lair with us?" As he said this, Xing Jian Gorge told them about the enemy's situation. 3 days ago, led by the Zen sect's Infinite Buddha Heart Pot and the Voodoo sect's Grand Wizard Lei Song, they led 6 greater boundless realm cultivators and 3 lesser boundless realm cultivators to the world of life spirit. Only Xining, Wu Hongzi, Xing Tianyuan, and Wenzai, the 4 greater boundless realm cultivators, were left in the enemy's camp. Now, Xining and the other 2 were dead, and only Wu Hongzi was left. Under such circumstances, it was naturally the best time to completely destroy the enemy's lair. After knowing this, although Lin Sun was eager to meet his senior brothers and sisters in Mountain of Heart and Soul, he also knew that he had to seize the time to kill the enemy. Otherwise, once the opportunity was lost, it would take a lot of time and effort to destroy the enemy's forces again. Therefore, after thinking for a while, Lin Sun agreed without hesitation. "Junior brother, old weirdo Fu, my young friend Lin Sun, and I can take this action together. You take the others back to Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain and keep watch. Before we return, we must be careful not to encounter any accident," Xing Jian Gorge ordered. Although Ren Futian also wanted to go to the enemy's lair, he also knew that Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain could not be left unguarded, so he immediately nodded and agreed. Xuanhui Jia and Shuya naturally had no objection to such an arrangement. Immediately, they took action separately. "My young friend Lin, 3 days ago, when the Great Way Life Lotus appeared, there was an accident in the realm of Lingwu. May I ask if this accident has anything to do with you?" On the way, Xing Jian Gorge asked. 3 days ago, Wenzai and Wu Hongzi hurriedly left the vicinity of Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain with a group of strong cultivators. All of this made Xing Jian Gorge and others realize that something had happened. Now, after witnessing the power Lin Sun showed in the battle, they had roughly judged that the accident was very likely to be Lin Sun's doing. But what exactly this accident was, they still did not know. After thinking for a while, Lin Sun told them about how he destroyed the lair of the Yi clan, the Ju clan, and the Minamoto clan. "Ju Wutian was also killed by you?" Knowing this, Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli were both surprised. Ju Wutian was an unparalleled character, but he was killed by Lin Sun, who was even more unparalleled than him. This was naturally surprising. Through the reactions of the two, Lin Sun increasingly realized that Ju Wutian was not simple. But fortunately, Ju Wutian was doomed to die. Senior, I also have a question in my mind. How did my eldest senior brother meet with disaster? Lin Sun finally couldn't help asking about it. A trace of sadness rose in Xing Jian Gorge's eyes as he said, "More than 10 years ago, those hostile forces launched a large-scale invasion. It's our fault for not protecting you well enough, allowing your eldest senior brother to suffer a blow from the heart pot in the chaotic battle. At that time, your eldest senior brother was only at the full completion of the Doctrine Realm. Even if his combat power was so great that he could compete with those at the full completion of the Creation Realm, how could he be the opponent of the heart pot? With just one blow, your eldest senior brother's Taoist body was crushed, and even his spirit was shattered. His voice was low and full of self-blame. I really shouldn't have let him participate in the war. Lin Sun's mind was in turmoil. He quietly clenched his hands, took a deep breath, and suppressed the uneasiness in his heart. He said, "So, my eldest senior brother is really gone?" Fu Nanli let out a long sigh, and a look of shame appeared on his face. He said, "He did meet with disaster. But at that time, I put away your eldest senior brother's remains and shattered spirit and gave them to your second senior brother, Zhong Qiu. Before the war, he mentioned this strange request to me. He said that if your eldest senior brother met with disaster, I should protect his life no matter what, even if it was a drop of blood, a bone, or a strand of hair." Just as he said this, he suddenly noticed that Lin Sun actually smiled abnormally, as if he was relieved of a heavy burden. "That's good, that's good." Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli looked at each other and couldn't help asking, "My young friend, what do you mean?" Lin Sun thought for a moment and said with a smile, "As long as there's a chance of survival, I have a way to bring my eldest senior brother back to life. But his spirit has been destroyed. How could he possibly survive?" Xing Jian Gorge was stunned. "This is related to the power of nirvana," Lin Sun said in a light voice, "but please keep it a secret from me. Don't leak this matter." Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli agreed in unison. They were extremely shocked in their hearts. The profundity of nirvana can actually bring a dead person back to life? If it's really like this, then such might is too taboo. Existences in the boundless realm like them had already stepped foot into the ultimate realm of the eternal path, yet they didn't have the strength to bring someone back from the dead. However, Lin Sun was able to accomplish this. If news of this were to spread, it was unknown what sort of great waves it would cause. Chapter 3175. That's good, that's good. Fu Nanli smiled. If Lin Sun could save the eldest disciple of Mount Innerheart, the guilt in his heart would lessen a little. Soon, they arrived at the Crimson Cliff Divine Mountain where the Panwu clan resided. However, the enormous Scarlet Cliff Divine Mountain had long since been deserted. There was not a single soul in sight. Did they notice something and flee? Xing Jianxia raised his brows. If that's the case, then it'll be troublesome. Fu Nanli couldn't help but frown. The Lingwu realm was huge. If those enemies fled, then it would take a lot of effort to hunt them down. Seniors, please wait a moment. Allow me to investigate. As he spoke, Lin Sun took out Song Yoji's soul from the abyssal sword cauldron and searched it. After a short while, Lin Sun heaved a sigh of relief and said, 3 days ago, the powerhouses of the various forces gathered on the shaman sect's great barbarian god mountain. Wu Hongzi and 6 other lesser boundless realm cultivators are guarding the mountain. There are quite a few creation realm cultivators, 29 of them. Xing Jianxia and Fu Nanli both smiled when they heard this. The powerhouses of the opposing forces were all gathered on the great barbarian god mountain, and this saved them a lot of time. They could wipe them out in one go. Let's go to the great barbarian god mountain. The group changed directions and flashed towards the great barbarian god mountain where the shaman sect resided. The great barbarian god mountain. It was one of the divine mountains closest to the ocean of destiny. It rose and fell like dragons, and it was bathed in thick grand Tao vitality. One could imagine how much vitality of the grand Tao one could refine while cultivating here. Now that Lin Sun knew that the creation realm cultivators were gathered in the ocean of destiny, they didn't have to fight for the opportunity to head to the ruins of Tao. The reason was simple. Even if a grand Tao lotus appeared every once in a while, their strength couldn't compete with those boundless realm cultivators. The reason they gathered here was firstly to avoid the slaughter of the Great Silence lifespan tribulation. Even if the outside world was annihilated after a new world was born, they could choose to continue staying here, or they could leave the martial spirit world and enter the new world. The second was that cultivating in this spirit martial realm's core zone, they were able to refine the great Tao's life force unceasingly. This would produce an extremely great aid towards them accumulating strength and corroborating their Tao to the boundless realm. This was the reason why every Creator Realm expert came to the Sea of Destiny. Of course, if they had the chance to head to the ruins of Myriad Tao, then they were bound to not miss it. The great barbarian God Mountain is up ahead. In the distant sky, Lin Sun and the others stood in the void, and their gazes were fixed on the distant great barbarian God Mountain. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good heavens, there are actually 18 types of divine-level sequence powers. Xing Jianxiao was shocked. Fu Nanli could not help but be moved as well. It looks like these forces have brought all of their divine-level sequence powers here to cover this entire great barbarian God Mountain. This is slightly troublesome. If we were to attack with our full strength, we'd probably need to spend a great amount of time to break through these 18 divine rank orders. Suddenly, a gloomy and aged voice resounded from the distant divine barbaric mountain. Sword Row Gorge, Fu Nanli? All of you didn't obediently hole up in the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, but actually dared to come here. How audacious of you! Along with this voice, a figure appeared in the sky above the great barbarian God Mountain. He was emaciated and tall, his eye sockets sunken in, and he held a black-colored wooden staff in his hand. His entire body emanated the boundless Tao glow that was dense like ink, and he seemed like an ancient devil exalt of legend and possessed a horrifying imposing aura. Wu Hongzi, a boundless realm existence of the shaman sect who had lived for countless years. Boom! Along with Wu Hongzi's appearance, the mountains and rivers trembled while all things in the world rustled. The energy of the 18 divine rank laws that covered great barbaric divine mountain rumbled as they circulated, and they emanated all sorts of gorgeous, resplendent, and dazzling divine radiance of the Grand Tao. Subsequently, figure after figure flashed out from the great barbaric divine mountain and floated up into the air before gathering behind Wu Hongzi. Shockingly, they were 6 minor boundless realm existences. When they saw the Travel Sword Gorge, Fu Nanli, and Lin Sun in the distance, these lesser boundless realm existences all became restless, and their expressions changed. Like Wu Hongzi, they did not expect that the Traversing Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli, who had been hiding in the Lotus Leaf Mountain all these years, would dare to show up here. When they saw Lin Sun beside them, there was a cry of surprise. Lin Sun! How could it be him? This little animal has actually come to the spirit martial dimension as well. Something's off. Haven't Seniors Xian Ying and Xing Tianyuan always been stationed nearby Lotus Leaf Mountain? How could they have allowed the Traversing Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli to appear here? The scene before their eyes was truly too unbelievable, and it caused them to be surprised and bewildered. Even Wu Hongzi's brows knit together tightly at this moment, and he realized that the situation was bad. Wu Hongzi, you'll know in a while if we're bold or not. If you dare to come out and fight me now, then I can give you a swift death. Otherwise, don't blame us for flattening this place. Fu Nanli's gaze was sharp and murderous. How laughable! Why should I agree to fight you? Wu Hongzi's expression was gloomy. If you have the ability, then just kill your way in. Even though his heart was filled with questions, he seemed to be extremely composed at this moment. He understood the strength of the Traversing Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli extremely well, and he was very clearly aware that so long as he controlled the 18 divine rank laws to guard Great Barbaric Divine Mountain, then it was practically impossible for them to kill their way in. Xing Jianxia and Fu Nanli exchanged glances when they saw this, and then they frowned. In their opinion, Wu Hongzi and the others weren't worthy of fear at all, and only the Great Barbaric Divine Mountain that was covered in 18 levels of divine rank order seemed to be very troublesome to deal with. What? You also know that you won't be able to charge in so quickly, so you only dare to bark there? In the sky above the Great Barbarian God Mountain, Wu Hongzi sneered with disdain. This caused the faces of Sword Traversing Gorge and Fu Nanli to darken. At this moment, seniors, please wait a moment. I'll collect these god-level orders, Lin Sun said and stepped forward in the air. Both Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli were stunned. In the far distance, Wu Hongzi couldn't help laughing. Lin Sun, you're just a little thing in creation realm. You're overestimating yourself. Beside him, those 6 minor boundless realm figures all could not help laughing. Lin's action reminded them of a saying, an ant trying to shake a tree. Only Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli had strange expressions, and their eyes were filled with a strange expression. Right under the gazes of everyone, Lin Sun's tall figure stopped 3 kilometers away from the great barbaric divine mountain, and his moon-white clothes fluttered in the wind, causing him to seem aloof and extraordinary. He raised his right hand and grabbed towards the distance from afar. Huff! An enormous hand that blotted out the sky condensed out of thin air. Its fingers were like pillars that could hold up the sky, and the fluctuations of the profundity of nirvana that surged like an ocean surged out from the center of his palm. Along with this enormous hand grabbing out, bang! The space in the surroundings fell into disorder and rumbled like thunder. A dazzling and resplendent rain of order shot out, and then the divine rank order that covered the outermost area of the great barbaric divine mountain was forcefully grabbed up. It was simply like the veil of the sky had been lifted open. The smiles on the faces of Wu Hongzi and the others froze while the disdain between their brows was replaced by shock, and they seemed to be filled with disbelief. Suppress! Wu Hongzi shouted loudly, and he used his cultivation at the boundless realm to control the divine rank order. However, to his astonishment, he'd actually lost control of the divine rank order at this instant. Right at this moment, a wave of violent rumbling resounded. The divine rank order that was grabbed up was actually forcefully suppressed and subdued, and it transformed into a dazzling ray of light that fell into Lin Sun's hand in an extremely docile manner. Fu Nanli and the sword-traversing gorge couldn't help but gasp when they witnessed this scene. If it was merely a single divine rank order, then they were confident in their ability to break through it with ease. But the current situation was different. The divine rank order was controlled by a boundless realm existence like Wu Hongzi. Moreover, it conformed with the other 17 divine rank orders, so the might it revealed was extremely terrifying. Dealing with a single divine rank order was like dealing with all the divine rank orders. Yet now, Lin Sun had easily broken through Wu Hongzi's control, forcefully grabbed the divine rank order, and directly suppressed and subdued it. From the beginning until the end, he'd done it in a casual and skillful manner. Bang! At this moment, along with a command in Lin Sun's heart, the enormous hand that blotted out the sky grabbed out once more, and it caused a torrent of a rain of order to cover the sky. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, the second divine rank order was also grabbed and subdued in the blink of an eye. Damn it! How could this be? Wu Hongzi was shocked and angry. He had been controlling the divine rank order with all his strength. But when Lin Sun's enormous hand grabbed out, the power it released directly erased his control, so that the divine rank order was taken away uncontrollably. All of this seemed too incredible. Get ready for battle. This time, we can't let any of the enemies escape. Seeing this scene, sword-traversing gorge quickly transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. He took out the Thunder Pagoda and was ready to fight. Okay. Fu Nanli also took out his bright red flying sword. Boom, boom, boom. As Lin Sun's mind turned, the enormous hand that blotted out the sky kept grabbing down, like a giant hand from the god of heaven, overturning the sky again and again. No matter how hard Wu Hongzi tried, he could only watch the divine rank order being taken away one by one in the end. All of this made his face turn livid, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He felt like he was going crazy. At present, all of them relied on the 18 divine rank orders, but now they were easily taken away by Lin Sun, a creation realm cultivator. How could they not be shocked and angry? Sword-traversing gorge said slowly, "By the way, I forgot to tell you that Xen Ing, Wenzai, and Xing Tianyuan have all met with misfortune, and it's impossible for them to come to save you. In other words, only you are left in the spiritual martial realm now." His voice spread in all directions. "What? This is impossible. How could this be?" This bad news was like a bolt from the blue, and it completely shattered the last trace of hope in the hearts of Wu Hongzhi and others. All of their faces changed greatly, and they were terrified. At this moment, boom! Amidst rumbling that shook the heavens and the earth, the final layer of the divine rank order that covered the great barbaric divine mountain was easily taken away by Lin Sun. The entire great barbaric god mountain was completely exposed to the world at this moment. I'll continue to update tonight. For the sake of Goldfish's diligence, please vote for her monthly ticket. Chapter 3176. Amidst the billowing dust, Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli, who had been waiting for a long time, attacked immediately. "Little friend, you hold the line. Old freak Fu and I will kill the enemies." As Xing Jian Gorge shouted, he took out the lightning pagoda in his hand and charged towards Wu Hongzhi with a torrent of lightning. Clang! At the same time, Fu Nanli activated his red flying sword and charged towards the 6 lesser boundless realm existences. The crimson and bewitching sword chi was like a storm that blotted out the sky. When the 2 greater boundless realm existences attacked, the entire world was covered by a terrifying might. "Bring your men and leave this place immediately. I'll cover your retreat." Wu Hongzhi calmed down from his shock and anger at this moment and quickly sent a voice transmission. Buzz! As he spoke, he waved the black wooden staff in his hand and tapped it in the air. Instantly, the space became chaotic and the world turned upside down. The ink-like black power of laws turned into a barrier that stretched across the world. Supreme divine ability. Devil's domain restriction. A deafening boom resounded. Xing Jian Gorge's lightning pagoda and Fu Nanli's red flying sword were blocked by this barrier of laws. However, in the blink of an eye, this barrier formed by the power of laws exploded. After all, he was only one person. His cultivation was slightly inferior to Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli. It was already extremely rare for him to be able to block their attacks in one move. "Hurry up and leave," Wu Hongzhi shouted. His skinny figure released millions of rays of light, and his aura was terrifying. He waved the black wooden staff in his hand continuously. One after another, black barriers formed by the laws of space rose from the ground and stretched across the sky. It was like one demonic world after another. That level of divine ability power was simply seizing all good fortune. Unfortunately, his opponents were Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli. As the 2 of them attacked with full force, the layers of demonic barriers exploded like paper, turning into violent energy torrents and dissipating. Wu Hongzhi was shaken to the point that his blood and qi were in turmoil. He was so uncomfortable that he was about to cough up blood. "Go!" The other 6 lesser boundless realm existences did not dare to be negligent. They teleported with the more than 20 creation realm existences that rushed out from the great barbarian god mountain and fled into the distance. The laughable thing was that in the outside world, those existences at the creation realm were terrifying existences that shook the world, yet at this moment, they were panicking and uneasy like frightened beasts. "Seniors, you guys deal with Wu Hongzhi. Leave these people to me." Lin Sun, who had been watching with cold eyes, said aloud. "All right." Fu Nanli immediately changed his target and focused on dealing with Wu Hongzhi. Kill. A fierce battle broke out as Travel Sword Gorge and Fu Nanli unleashed their godly might to fight Wu Hongzhi fiercely. At this time, Lin Sun's 5 Tao forms whizzed out and blocked the nearby mountains and rivers. "Get lost!" A boundless realm existence charging at the very front directly deployed a golden jade ruler, smashing it fiercely towards Lin Sun's main body. As far as he was concerned, although Lin Sun had easily taken away the 18 divine level orders, He was only a creation realm being after all. If they were to really fight, he would definitely be unable to withstand a single blow. But who would have thought that Lin Sun didn't dodge? Instead, he directly stretched out his hand and grasped the golden jade ruler firmly in his hand. The man's pupils shrank. Lin Sun's main body smiled faintly and said, "Even Zhu Wutian isn't as arrogant as you." When the words rang out, Lin Sun suddenly released his power all over his body. A rain of swords emerged from his body, and the majestic and boundless sword intent crushed down. Boom! The defensive power of that lesser boundless realm existence instantly exploded. That unparalleled sword intent minced his body into pieces, and even his spirit was crushed by the surging torrent of sword chi. In just an instant, this lesser boundless realm existence was killed on the spot. This bloody scene made the other 5 boundless realm figures and the creation realm existences in the vicinity feel their blood run cold, and their scalps went numb. This way, a silver-robed old man with snow-white hair and beard holding a blood-colored spear in his hand shouted and dashed in another direction. In that direction, Lin Sun's greenwood Taoist physique stood alone. When they rushed over, the silver-robed old man and the other 4 lesser boundless realm figures attacked together, trying to destroy the greenwood Taoist physique with this attack and lead everyone to kill a way out. Boom! How terrifying was the power of 5 lesser boundless realm figures joining forces. Taoist swords, sabers, spears, ancient seals, and flying blades swept across the sky. All kinds of supreme supernatural powers released a torrent of rule power that was like the water of the Milky Way, and all of them blasted toward the greenwood Taoist physique. Humph! Greenwood Taoist physique snorted coldly and suddenly took a deep breath. His hands formed a seal in the void and pressed down fiercely. Boom! The sky and earth shook, and the sun and moon lost their light. The divine flames formed by billions of cyan rule power soared into the sky, releasing a power that could burn the heavens and destroy the earth, and collided with the torrent of power that was coming at them. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion resounded, and this piece of heaven and earth seemed to explode. The destructive power swept out with a rumble, and all the nearby mountains, rivers, and everything turned into ashes in an instant. In the void, a scene of doomsday-like destruction was reflected. And in the collision of such power, the joint attack of the silver-robed old man and the other 4 lesser boundless realm figures was forcibly blocked. It didn't shake Lin Sun's greenwood Taoist physique in the slightest. The silver-robed old man and the others all showed a look of disbelief. It was just the Tao doppelganger of a creator realm figure. How could it be so powerful? No! Granduncle, save me! Ah! Suddenly, a shrill scream with horror rang out. Not far away, Lin Sun's scarlet fire, platinum gold, yellow earth, and black water Taoist physique surrounded this place together, and each of them attacked without holding back. And those creator realm powerhouses, at this moment, were suppressed and killed one by one in the field, and their blood splashed like rain. And in front, Lin Sun's original body had already met with greenwood Taoist physique. This kind of siege made the silver-robed old man and the other lesser boundless realm existences feel despair. Kill! Fight him to the death! In the roar, the silver-robed old man and the others' eyes were bloodshot, and they seemed to be crazy, and began to fight desperately. Every single one of them used their trump cards. If it's a greater boundless realm existence, I might have to take it seriously, but if it's you, there's no difference between you and a chicken and a stray dog. Lin Sun looked indifferent. As he spoke, the abyssal sword cauldron appeared in the air and began to kill. Rumble the world was in chaos, and fierce fighting scenes were everywhere. Under the siege of Lin Sun and his 5 Taoist physiques, the 29 creator realm people were killed in the field one by one. Then, the silver-robed old man and the other 4 lesser boundless realm people also suffered one by one. Nothing unexpected happened. This was like a massacre without suspense. Lin Sun, with an absolutely crushing attitude, wiped out those enemies in just a moment. Looking at Lin Sun, he was unscathed from beginning to end. Blood rained down, and the screams were still echoing between heaven and earth, but only Wu Hongzhi was left in the field, struggling to hold on. However, his face was extremely ugly at this moment. He also saw the scene of Lin Sun slaughtering the silver-robed old man and the others, and all this made him feel despair. Who would have thought that such a young man in the great perfection of Creator Realm could be so heaven-defying that he could wipe out a group of lesser boundless realm existences? Gradually, Wu Hongzhi was injured more and more, and his skinny body was bleeding constantly. He looked so miserable that people could not bear to look at him. Kujian Gorge and Fu Nanli didn't stand on ceremony at all. The road of Tao was like this. Since a blood feud had been formed, then it was destined to determine a winner and a loser, a life and death battle. If they were to lose this time, the enemy would definitely not show any mercy, and they would definitely perish as well. I know. 3 days ago, it was Lin Sun who appeared and destroyed the territories of the Ju clan, the Yi clan, and the Minamoto clan. It was also from then on that he set off this disaster. Suddenly, Wu Hongzhi shouted as if he finally figured it out. There was a sudden realization, bitterness and disappointment on his face. 3 days ago, the Great Way Life Lotus appeared. It was also 3 days ago that an unforeseen event suddenly occurred. Pulling one hair would cause a chain reaction, and the reason why Kujian Gorge and Fu Nanli could break the deadlock and kill their way here was naturally caused by this change caused by Lin Sun. But Wu Hongzhi had never thought that the person who changed the hostile situation should be a young man in the Creator Realm like Lin Sun. Wu Hongzhi didn't hate Lin Sun, but felt extremely confused and puzzled. Did the lotus that the owner of the core piece had been waiting for ages really have the magical power to overturn everything in the past and break the fixed situation of the heavens? Disaster? Wrong. For us, the arrival of Lin Sun is an opportunity to reverse the situation and reverse the general trend. From now on, all the grievances of the past should be settled. Kujian Gorge shouted. Before the owner of the core piece was defeated, he once said that the situation of the spiritual martial world was destined to change before the coming of the era. But now, I know that my young friend Lin Sun is the one who changed all this. Fu Nanli also said with emotion. Really, Wu Hongzhi, who was getting more and more seriously injured, suddenly opened his eyes and shouted word by word, I don't believe that he is a match for the primordial dominator. Not to mention him, the owner of the core piece, Golden Cicada, and Chen Linkong are destined to be no match for the primordial dominator. His voice was like thunder, rolling and surging. But the next moment, his wounded and broken Taoist body was hit by the thunder pagoda and exploded, and his primordial spirit was cut into pieces by the bright red flying sword. Kujian Gorge and Fu Nanli cooperated seamlessly in this attack. Seeing that Wu Hongzhi was completely destroyed, the two boundless realm masters breathed a long sigh of relief and put away their Taoist weapons. As they gazed at the scene of destruction in the boundless mountains and rivers, their hearts surged without end, and they were dazed. Today, together with Lin Sun, they wiped out all the forces left by the hostile forces in the spiritual martial world in one go. This was absolutely something they dared not imagine before today. And all this changed because of Lin Sun. My young friend Lin, thank you very much. Kujian Gorge turned around and solemnly bowed to Lin Sun, who came from afar. Fu Nanli also took a deep breath and bowed to Lin Sun together with Kujian Gorge. Today, Lin Sun made a great contribution by himself, changed the situation of the world, and also broke the predicament that made them suffer humiliation for many years. Such a great contribution, such a great favor, deserved this bow. More updates for you. Chapter 3177. Xingjian Gorge was the disciple of Yuanchu, the patriarch of Yuan sect. Fu Nanli was the disciple of Xuyin, the patriarch of Spirit sect. Both of them had reached the boundless realm for tens of thousands of years. In this spiritual martial realm, they were the leaders of Yuan sect and Spirit sect. But at this time, they bowed together and thanked Lin Sun solemnly. This made Lin Sun's figure stagnate, and then he hurriedly stepped forward to help the two big shots up. He said with a wry smile, "Seniors, this is too much for me." Xing Jian Gorge laughed and said, "Don't be modest. Just based on today's battle, you deserve our bow." "Not bad, not bad," Fu Nanli also said with a smile. In the Battle of Xing Jian Gorge, Xin Ing, Wenzai, Xing Tian Yuan, the three greater boundless realm existences and a group of strong people were completely annihilated. In this battle of Great Barbarian God Mountain, with the death of Wu Hongzi and the others, the strong people of the hostile forces in spiritual martial realm were completely annihilated. Such a great victory was enough to shine for thousands of years. And Lin Sun was the key to deciding this battle, and he deserved great credit. Seniors, although this battle is over, those enemies are not really annihilated. Lin Sun raised his eyes and looked at the sea of fate in the sky. When these old guys, Xian Kettle, Lei Song, are killed, the situation of this spiritual martial realm will be really stable. 3 days ago, Infinite Buddha Heart Kettle of Zen sect and Lei Song of Voodoo sect led 6 other greater boundless realm figures and 3 lesser boundless realm figures to fight in the world of Life Lotus. In Lin Sun's view, only by killing these old guys could it be considered a real victory. Speaking of this, Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli also stopped smiling. Xian Kettle and Lei Song are at the same level as us. Their combat power is extremely tyrannical, and they can't be underestimated. Compared with these 2 old guys, Xian Ing, Wu Hongzi, and the others are also inferior. Xing Jian Gorge said softly, and the 6 greater boundless realm figures who went to the world of Life Lotus with them are from other eternal god clans. Their combat power is also extremely tyrannical, and they are not inferior to Xian Ing and Wu Hongzi. For example, the Yi clan's ancestor, Yi Ju, was a ferocious figure that had overcome the Grand Silence lifeless stage 5 times. By the side, Fu Nanli also said, those 3 lesser boundless realm figures are also very remarkable. They are respectively Yi clan's Yi Wuhan, Ziju clan's Ziju Chong, and Ji clan's Ji Tianqing. Each one of them is a heaven-defying figure in the boundless realm. Does little friend Lin still remember that Zhu Wutian? Lin Sun nodded. Of course he knew. Every one of these 3 people possesses a foundation that is even more terrifying than Zhu Tian. Fu Nanli said, it's precisely because of this that Xian Hu, Lei Song, and the others decided to send these 3 people away first if they're able to seize the opportunity to head to the ruins of Dao. Lin Sun suddenly understood. I see. He understood that if he seized the opportunity and let Xian Hu, Lei Song, and the other top figures leave now, the forces of the enemy camp would imperceptibly weaken by a lot. Under such circumstances, sending away lesser boundless realm figures like Yi Wuhan, Zish Chong, and Ji Tianqing first was undoubtedly the wisest choice. However, the situation is different now. Now that we have Lin Sun, the strength we possess is enough to compete with the other side. Speaking of this, Xing Jian Gorge couldn't help but be full of lofty sentiment. In the past few years, they had been trapped on the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, and the strength they possessed was far less than those hostile forces. But from today onwards, all this had been reversed and changed. Lin Sun thought for a moment and nodded secretly. Now on their side, there were 3 greater boundless realm figures, namely Xing Jian Gorge, Fu Nanli, and Ren Fu. Gosh! And there were 8 in the enemy camp. But as long as one analyzed carefully, one could find that there were only 2 strongest greater boundless realm figures in the enemy camp, namely Xian Hu and Lei Song. Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli were enough to fight against them. As for Yi Ju and the other 6 greater boundless realm figures, they were all powerhouses at the same level as Wu Hongzi, Wenzai, and the others. With Lin Sun's strength, he could restrain 3 such powerhouses. Even in a one-on-one situation, it was enough to kill them. In other words, although Lin Sun's cultivation was at the great completion of creation realm, if his original body and the 5 Tao forms attacked together, they were enough to be on par with Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli. Under such circumstances, even if the number of greater boundless realm powerhouses in the enemy camp was a little more than that on their side. But in a real battle, they might not necessarily have the advantage. If they were to compare the existences of lesser boundless realm, they had Gu Yuesheng, Shun Huijia, and Shuya on their side. On the enemy side, they had Yi Wuhan, Zish Chong, and Ji Tianqing. They were evenly matched in number. Lin Sun still didn't know the combat power of Gu Yuesheng, Shun Huijia, and Shuya. But he knew that if the combat power of Yi Wuhan, Zish Chong, and Ji Tianqing was not inferior to Zhu Wutian, it would be very difficult for Gu Yuesheng and the others to compete with them. Unless Gu Yuesheng and the others also had such heaven-defying combat power. Of course, this was only the analysis of the number of strong people in the enemy camp. In a real battle, the situation changed rapidly and there were too many variables. It was not easy to determine the outcome of the battle. However, in general, as Xing Jian Gorge said, they already had the strength to compete with the enemy camp. Let's go back to Lotus Leaf Mountain first. Fu Nanli said. Let's go back and have a good drink. I'm afraid that Lin Sun has been anxious to meet his senior brothers and sisters for a long time. Xing Jian Gorge laughed heartily. Lin Sun also laughed. Immediately, they turned around and rushed towards Lotus Leaf Mountain. Lotus Leaf Mountain. On a huge Taoist field, Ren Futian, Gu Yuesheng and the others of Yuan sect, Shun Huijia and Shuya of the Spirit sect, and Zhong Qiu, Ruosu and Li Xianwei of Mountain Heart and Soul were all waiting eagerly. Now, Zhong Qiu and the others had all learned about the great battle that happened in the distant canyon, and they also knew how heaven-defying Lin Sun's current combat power was. At that moment, as his senior brothers and sisters, they were all excited and could not calm down. Yes, even they did not expect that after so many years, the person who would change their predicament would be their youngest junior brother. When they first heard the news from Gu Yuesheng and the others, they felt as if they were dreaming. When did their youngest junior brother prove his Tao to be eternal? When did their youngest junior brother prove his Tao to be creation realm? Their youngest junior brother's combat power was already so heaven-defying that he could hold back 3 greater boundless realm existences? Just what had their youngest junior brother experienced over the years? Youngest junior brother, all sorts of questions surged into their hearts like a tidal wave. After all, most of them had not seen Lin Sun for many years, and many of their impressions of Lin Sun were still from a long time ago. As his senior brothers and sisters, they subconsciously treated their youngest junior brother, Lin Sun, as someone they needed to take care of and protect. Who would have thought that the current him would become so different? Senior sister Ruosu, you are the most. Have you ever thought that our youngest junior brother would be able to prove his Tao to creation realm so quickly after understanding what he did in the eternal true world? The wait was undoubtedly torturous, and Li Xianwei could not help but ask. He, eldest senior brother, and the others had been trapped in the great universe true realm back then, and after they escaped, they came to the Kunlun ruins. They had also heard about their youngest junior brother from Ruosu and the others. I didn't expect it. Ruosu shook her head. Although Ruosu, Qingyu, Moon in the Well, and the other junior brothers and sisters had stayed in the spirit church back then, they only knew about what had happened before Lin Sun proved his Tao. She smiled and said, "When our youngest junior brother comes, we'll know after asking him." The others nodded. At that moment, Ren Futian suddenly smiled and said, "They're back!" Swoosh! Everyone's gazes turned to look at him. 3 rays of light teleported over from the distant sky. The ones in the lead were Xing Jian Gorge and Fu Nanli. When they saw the figure beside the 2 of them, Ruosu, Li Xianwei, and Pu Zhen could not help but become excited. It really is our youngest junior brother. Haha, quick, let's go and welcome him together. Let's go. The disciples of Feng Siyuan could not help but fly up and rush out of Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. When Ren Futian, Gu Yueshing, and the others saw this, they could not help but laugh and follow suit. Lin Sun greets my senior brothers and sisters. When he saw Ruosu, Li Xianwei, and the others, Lin Sun could not hide the joy in his heart. He smiled and greeted them. It had really been a long time. Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain became lively. The disciples of Feng Siyuan and Lin Sun sat on the ground, drinking and chatting happily. Under the continuous questioning of his senior brothers and sisters, Lin Sun told them about his experiences in the eternal true world over the years, causing many people to exclaim in surprise. Lin Sun felt even more emotional. He also learned many things from his senior brothers and sisters. For example, after Golden Cicada brought Yuan Sex Tai Xian, Yen Ji, Yu Beihai, and the others to the spirit martial world, his will had disappeared because he had exhausted too much energy. In other words, the one who had appeared outside Yuan Sex Mountain and turned the tide and defeated all his opponents was only Golden Cicada's will. For example, the will that the master of Feng Siyuan had left in the spirit martial world had completely dissipated more than 10 years ago in order to fend off the enemy forces that had come to kill them. At that time, it was precisely because the master of Feng Siyuan's will had acted to fend off the enemy forces that the Yuan sect and Feng Siyuan had successfully reached Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain and completely merged with the spirit sect's forces. For example, youngest uncle Kongju, Tai Xian, Yen Ji, Yu Beihai, and the others were in seclusion on Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, preparing for a breakthrough. Apart from them, there were also other disciples of Feng Siyuan in seclusion, such as 5th senior brother Qi Jun, 6th senior brother Xing Ke, 8th senior brother Bo Swanzi, 12th senior brother Shen Yan, Jun Huan, and so on. As they conversed, Lin Sun also noticed something. Among the disciples of Feng Siyuan, only senior sister Ruo Su had verified her Tao and surpassed the realm of rules. The other senior brothers and sisters were still drifting along the path of immortality. It was not that these senior brothers and sisters did not have enough talent and foundation. It was just that Lin Sun's speed of breaking through was too fast. In just a few hundred years, he had already verified his Tao and reached the great completion of the creation realm. Throughout the ages, there was no one else who could do this. That's right. As they conversed, Lin Sun remembered something, and he looked at Zhong Qiu. Second senior brother, is the life force left behind by eldest senior brother in your hands? Chapter 3178. The atmosphere quieted down when they talked about the eldest senior brother. Zhong Qiu nodded and said, "Back then, I followed your instructions and extracted some life force from the remains of eldest senior brother. Now, it's sealed in this bottle." Zhong Qiu took out a cyan jade bottle and carefully handed it to Lin Sun. Lin Sun held the jade bottle in his hand and sent his divine awareness into the seal of the bottle to sense it. Suddenly, a trace of vitality appeared in his divine awareness, but it was extremely small. But the power contained in the vitality was terrifying, like an erupting volcano, extremely ostentatious and domineering. This made Lin Sun slightly excited. With this vitality, it should be enough to bring the eldest senior brother back to life. "Junior brother, how is it?" Zhong Qiu's voice rang in Lin Sun's ears. He looked up and saw that Zhong Qiu, Ruosu, and Li Xianwei were all nervous. Eldest senior brother was the number 1 disciple of the Heart Core sect, but his body and primordial spirit had been crushed by a single finger of the Buddha heart pot. This grievous news caused them to feel like they were going to collapse, and their hearts were filled with sorrow. Later, Zhong Qiu told them the magical effect of nirvana ultimacy that Lin Sun had mastered, which rekindled a glimmer of hope. Now, Lin Sun was in front of them. Whether the eldest senior brother could be saved or not depended on his words. After thinking for a while, Lin Sun said seriously, "There is great hope. He dared not guarantee it. Back then, Tang Jiang was only saved because she was just a child who had never cultivated before. But the eldest senior brother was different. He had reached the eternal realm, and Lin Sun was not sure whether the nirvana ultimacy could bring an eternal figure back to life. He could only try his best to save him. Even though Lin Sun had spoken very cautiously, Zhong Qiu, Ruosu, and the others were still excited when they heard his words, and their eyes lit up. That's great! It's better to have hope than to have no hope. Junior brother, I'll leave this matter to you. The senior brothers and senior sisters all spoke one after another, filled with ardent expectations. Seeing this, before Lin Sun could speak, Zhong Qiu frowned and said, "We can't put pressure on our junior brother. If we succeed, it will be a great blessing for our Mind Mountain. If we fail, we can't blame our junior brother for it." Of course. Everyone nodded. Senior brothers and sisters, don't worry. I will do my best, Lin Sun said with a smile. Little friend Lin, do you mind if we join your banquet? Suddenly, a burst of hearty laughter rang out from afar. Xinjiang Gorge, Fu Nanli, Ren Futian, and the other important figures of the Yuan sect and the Ling sect came over in a mighty manner. I can't wait to be happy. How could I refuse? Seniors, please invite them in. Lin Sun and the others immediately stood up to welcome them. The banquet brought Lin Sun closer to the big shots such as Yuan Church and Spirit Church, whom he met for the first time. After the banquet, Xinjiang Gorge, Fu Nanli and Ren Futian told Lin Sun that they would depart together today to visit the enemy's camp. According to the Travel Sword Gorge, the battle in the world of the Life Lotus would last at least half a month to 3 months before it would come to an end. But before the curtains fell, the cultivators who couldn't hold on in the battle would leave the world of the Life Lotus in advance. This kind of situation was also very likely to happen to Xian, Hu, Lei Song and the others. What Xinjiang Gorge and Fu Nanli needed to do was to wait in the enemy camp and see if there were any stragglers who returned early. Yes. Knowing this, Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Old Ginger was spicier. What Xinjiang Gorge and Fu Nanli did seemed to be bold, but if they really seized the opportunity and an enemy returned from the world of the Life Lotus world, it would be enough to catch them off guard. After all, the enemies who were fighting fiercely in the world of the Life Lotus world were doomed to have no idea that the situation in the realm of spiritual martial arts had completely changed. Lin Sun originally planned to go with them, but he was refused by Xinjiang Gorge, Fu Nanli and Ren Futian, who urged him to stay in the Lotus Leaf Mountain. Lin Sun could only agree. There were many peaks like lotus leaves in the Lotus Leaf Mountain. Most of them were empty. Lin Sun chose a peak at random and opened a cave residence on it as his resting place. From now on, you can cultivate on this mountain with peace of mind. I have already told others about your origins, so don't worry about anything. In front of the cave residence, Lin Sun waved his sleeves, and the figures of the woman in black appeared. Now Lin Sun knew that the woman in black was called Rand Saiha, the tall man was called In Rahai, the thin old man with a huge sword was called Zhu Tongqi, and the man in white was called Ping Taojing. Thank you, Taoism Peer Lin. Rand Saiha and the other 3 showed their gratitude. When we destroy all the hostile forces, you can choose to leave. I won't force you to stay. Lin Sun said with a smile. Rand Saiha and the others looked at each other and nodded. Soon, the 4 of them left and settled on the peak where Lin Sun lived. After all, the Lotus Leaf Mountain was the place of the Spirit Church, which was very close to the Sea of Fate. Cultivating here could get a steady stream of the power of fate. For Rand Saiha and the others, this was something they didn't dare to think about before. After all, before they met Lin Sun, they could only live on the edge of the realm of spiritual martial arts. After making arrangements for the 4 of them, Lin Sun thought for a while and went to visit Ruosu. Senior sister, these are some cultivation resources I have collected over the years. You can distribute them to the other senior brothers and sisters. When he saw Ruosu, Lin Sun directly expressed his intention and handed over a storage jade pendant, leaving no room for Ruosu to refuse. Seeing this, Ruosu could only accept it, feeling warm in her heart. In the past, it was the senior brothers and sisters who protected the junior brother, but now it was the junior brother who helped the senior brothers and sisters. The great change made Ruosu sigh with emotion. It was undeniable that among the descendants of Mountain of Mind and Heart, Lin Sun's achievements had already far surpassed them. No one could compare with him. After saying goodbye to Ruosu, Lin Sun went straight back to the cave residence. Lin Sun let out a long breath of turbid air. When his mind was completely calm, he took out the cyan jade bottle that sealed the vitality of the eldest senior brother. Eldest senior brother, I will try my best to save you. A trace of firmness appeared in Lin Sun's black eyes. Chi. The power of the seal on the green jade bottle was removed. Immediately after, streaks of blood-red light emerged from the bottle, which contained a copious amount of vitality. Tut! Lin Sun made a gesture with both hands, and a furnace formed by the profound meaning of nirvana condensed out, absorbing all the vitality in the bottle and putting it into the furnace. Then, Lin Sun closed his eyes, ran his own cultivation, and constantly injected mysterious and obscure nirvana power into the furnace. Time passed day after day. Days passed. On the 9th day after Lin Sun arrived at Lotus Leaf Mountain, news came back. A greater boundless realm existence named Wu Donghe returned from the world of life Lotus in advance and was immediately killed by Sword Gorge, Fu Nanli and Ren Futian who were waiting for him. This was undoubtedly good news. With the death of Wu Donghe, it meant that there were only 7 greater boundless realm existences and 3 lesser boundless realm existences left in the enemy's camp. On this day, in the cave residence, the furnace formed by the profound meaning of nirvana in front of Lin Sun was steaming with the sound of boiling vitality. However, Lin Sun's expression was uncertain. In the 9th heaven, he had been using the profound meaning of nirvana to reshape and reconstruct the vitality left by the eldest senior brother, but the effect was extremely limited. Compared to the past, the vitality left by the eldest senior brother was indeed much stronger. But in Lin Sun's opinion, this vitality was probably inferior to the energy contained in a drop of blood essence of the eldest senior brother. It was too weak. If this situation continues, even if I'm able to save the eldest senior brother, I wonder how many years it'll take, Lin Sun muttered in his heart. The amount of time it took wasn't a problem for him. The problem was that Lin Sun didn't dare guarantee that he would succeed in the end. Never mind, I'll go all out. No matter what, I have to try. Lin Sun took a deep breath and decided that from today onwards, unless there was an emergency, he would let the 5 great Tao bodies execute the profound meaning of nirvana together to reshape the vitality of the eldest senior brother. On the 23rd day after the great Tao life lotus appeared, the ocean of destiny that had always been calm in the sky suddenly fluctuated violently and gave rise to tempestuous waves. For a time, it seemed as if countless thunderclaps resounded in the sky. This battle is about to end on Lotus Leaf Mountain. Everyone was alarmed, and they walked out of their cave residences and gathered together. Lin Sun's figure appeared as well, and he stood with Zhong Qiu, Ruosu, and the others as they shot their gazes towards the ocean of destiny. The 9 petals of the great Tao life lotus that were originally closed together suddenly bloomed once more within the ocean of destiny, and it emanated a myriad of strands of hazy light of the Tao. After that, numerous figures with terrifying auras flashed out from within the great Tao life lotus. Unfortunately, the spirit martial world's heart pot and the others actually seized this opportunity. There's still over 800 years of time before the calamity of the era arrives. In the future, there's no rush, and more great Tao life lotuses are bound to appear. Haha, even though the spirit martial world seized the Tao lotus altar this time, they paid an extremely great price for it, and it'll probably be very difficult for them to compete with us in the future. One voice after another rang out in the sea of fate. Some of those terrifying figures had unsightly expressions that revealed unwillingness, some had gloomy expressions as they sighed, and some sneered repeatedly. But in next to no time, all of these terrifying figures vanished at different directions within the ocean of destiny. On the other hand, Lin Sun and the others were stunned when they heard these voices. This time, they actually really allowed Heartpot and Lei Song to seize the opportunity to head to the ruins of Myriad Dao? To Lin Sun and the others, this news could be said to be both good and bad. The bad side was that Yi Wuhan, Ji Tianqing, and Zish Chong, these three minor boundless realm figures with heaven-defying reserves, were going to head to the ruins of Myriad Dao. The good side was that in this intense battle that lasted for 23 days, those hostile forces had paid an extremely great price as well. Moreover, the departure of Yi Wuhan and the others was able to weaken the strength of those hostile forces. Chapter 3179. Look, that's Xian Hu and Lei Song. At the peak of Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, Gu Yuexiang's eyes were filled with coldness. Following his gaze, a group of figures flew out of the Tao Life Lotus. The leader was a man in a white frock. He was as handsome as a young man. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand and was surrounded by bursts of Buddhist light. He looked ethereal. Zen Hu. He was an infinity Buddha of Zen sect. He had survived 6 great desolation tribulations and was the 3rd successor of Shi, the founder of Zen sect. By Xian Hu's side was a man who looked like he had been through a lot. He wore a green robe, had a thin figure, and had long gray hair that hung loosely on his shoulders, revealing a pair of eyes that were deep like the ocean. Lei Song, ancestor of Voodoo sect, the junior brother of Voodoo sect's founder. He was a terrifying existence who had survived 7 great desolation tribulations. Behind these two, there were 4 greater boundless realm cultivators, 3 men and 1 woman. Their auras were extremely powerful and terrifying. And when he saw this scene, Xuanhui Jia's eyes lit up. Only 6 people returned. In that case, other than Wu Donghe, who returned a few days ago, there's another boundless realm character who died, and he died in the world of the Life Lotus. Zhu Yun's state didn't return. Shuiya's eyes lit up. In the beginning, Xian Hu and Lei Song led the other 6 greater boundless realm cultivators and 3 lesser boundless realm cultivators to the world of Life Lotus. But now, only 6 people from their side had returned. This was naturally a good thing for everyone in Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Is that Xian who killed eldest senior brother Lin Sun's eyes immediately fixed on Xian Hu. He was handsome and young, but the aura he exuded was extremely terrifying. He stood there casually like a supreme ruler. I will avenge eldest senior brother. Lin Sun's heart flashed with killing intent. At the same time, on the Sea of Fate, Xian Hu, Lei Song and the others all wore smiles. There was more or less a touch of joy between their eyebrows. In this battle in the world of Life Lotus, they successfully occupied the Life Lotus Taoist altar for 3 days and won from the extremely dangerous siege. Soon after, the Grand Tao Fate Lotus rumbled as its stamen emitted a dazzling light that flew towards the Sea of Destiny. To Xian Hu, Lei Song, and the others, this meant that Yi Wuhan, Ji Tianqing, and Zish Chong had already followed the Grand Tao Lotus to the ruins of Tao. It's a pity that the fellow Taoist from the End Cloud State died. Lei Song sighed softly. How can there be no deaths in the struggle of the great Tao? We have casualties here, but there are also many in other epochs. Xian Hu said calmly. As they spoke, they'd already strode out from the ocean of destiny, descended into the martial spirit realm, and headed towards where they resided. In next to no time, Lei Song's thin expression changed, and he revealed a furious expression. Damn it! How did my shaman sect's great barbaric divine mountain turn into ruins? This, Xian Hu and the other 4 boundless realm figures were also shocked, their expressions changing abruptly. They had only been gone for slightly more than 20 days, but the sorcerer cult's territory had already been reduced to ruins. This change was completely out of their expectations. Quick, let's check out the other places nearby, Heartpot said in a deep voice. Soon, they began to move. Up until 15 minutes later, the expressions of Xian Hu, Lei Song, and the others had already become extremely livid. All of them seemed like beasts that had been greatly stimulated and intended to devour others. They're all gone. How could this be? Xian Hu muttered. Even though his mental state had been tempered to the point of being extremely tenacious, he still felt like he was on the verge of going mad at this moment. Wu Donghe returned over 10 days ago, but he's gone as well. If nothing unexpected happens, then the experts of our various powers that were left behind in the martial spirit realm have probably suffered a calamity. Lei Song's aura surged, and his expression was terrifyingly gloomy. Xian Ing Wenzai Xing Tianyuan Wu Hongzi. An entire 4 boundless realm figures held down the fort in this world, yet none of them were able to resist the enemy's attack? Then, how formidable is the enemy? Someone was scared out of his wits. They'd lived for countless years, yet when faced with such grievous news, they were still unable to maintain their composure. No matter who it is, they have to pay the price for this. Someone's eyes were bloodshot, and he was so angry that his entire face was hideous. His aura was violent, and his angry roar shook the heavens and earth. In this martial spirit realm, it seems that only those old bastards trapped in the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain can do this while we're away. Someone tried his best to calm himself down. But with just their strength, they can't do this. Perhaps this means that an unforeseen event has occurred. Unforeseen event. Xian Hu, Lei Song, and the others all frowned. If you want to know the answer, go to the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, and you'll know. Because regardless of whether this is the doing of those old bastards on the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, they definitely know that something has happened. Someone suggested. We can't go now. Xian Hu suddenly spoke, and his eyes flashed. We've been fighting and killing in the world of life spirits for so many days, and we haven't even had the time to heal some of the hidden injuries on our bodies. The most important thing now is to heal the injuries on our bodies, and restore our cultivation to its peak state. At this moment, Xian Hu had completely calmed down from his rage. Moreover, if this matter is really related to the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, they've probably already made all sorts of preparations, and they've long known that there are only 6 of us left. It's not wise to kill our way over now. His words shocked Lei Song and the others, and they all calmed down. On the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain, there were only 3 great boundless realm experts, Fu Nanli and Ren Futian. Comparatively speaking, their side still held the advantage. But just as Xian Hu said, there was some sort of unforeseen event in the current situation, and they couldn't help but be vigilant. Let's do it. Lei Song and the others also made their decision. Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain. Xing Sword Gorge, Fu Nanli and Ren Futian hurried back. If it was against an opponent who was alone, they naturally wouldn't be afraid. But now Xian Hu, Lei Song, and the others had already returned. Under such circumstances, Xing Sword Gorge and the others had no choice but to retreat and rush back to the Lotus Leaf Divine Mountain at the first possible moment. For us, the current situation can be said to be very good. But we can't let our guard down. Xian Hu, Lei Song, and the others have 6 great boundless realm existences, after all. Their lineup is still extremely strong. After returning, Xing Sword Gorge and the others found Lin Sun to discuss the next strategy. Seniors, may I be so bold as to ask, in this Lingwu realm, why is there such a huge gap between us and the enemy forces? Lin Sun finally couldn't help but ask. The addition of 12 eternal gods was one thing, but in terms of overall strength, the Spirit Church and the Yuan Church were still far from the Voodoo Church and the Zen Church. Just like before, in the Voodoo Church and the Zen Church, there were 4 great boundless realm figures each. Among them, there were 4 great boundless realm figures. On the Yuan Church and the Spirit Church's side, there were only 6 great boundless realm figures, and only 3 great boundless realm figures. If compared to the creation realm figures, the gap was even more obvious. This was what Lin Sun didn't understand. Hearing this, Xing Sword Gorge and the others all smiled, but their smiles were somewhat helpless. Fu Nanli said, "In fact, it's very simple. Some people choose to be dogs, so there are fewer powerful figures who die under the Great Desolation. But we don't want to be dogs, so the risk of encountering the Great Desolation is greater." In the past years, the Yuan Church and the Spirit Church's power gradually fell behind the Voodoo Church and the Zen Church because we refused the solicitation of the mastermind behind the scenes several times. After a pause, Fu Nanli continued, "Of course, the mastermind behind the scenes can only borrow a part of the Great Desolation's power. Little friend, have you heard of the Destined Envoy?" Lin Sun nodded, "I have." Unexpectedly, Xing Sword Gorge and the others were all shocked by this sentence. "You, a creation realm figure, actually encountered the Destined Envoy?" Lin Sun was stunned, and patiently explained the matter of killing Ying Shanying outside the Divine City of Fortune. "It's really incredible," Fu Nanli said with a strange expression. "You should know that in the past, only the great boundless realm figures will be targeted by the Destined Envoy when they encounter the Great Desolation." Lin Sun finally understood why Xing Sword Gorge and the others were so surprised. However, Lin Sun couldn't help but frown and ask doubtfully, "In this case, what kind of experts will the appearance of the primordial bell target?" Xing Sword Gorge said in surprise, "Did you encounter the primordial bell?" He and the others all had a stunned expression on their faces. Seeing this, Lin Sun's lips twitched, and he had to tell them about his encounter with the primordial bell. After hearing this, Xing Sword Gorge and the others couldn't help but gasp, looking at Lin Sun as if he was a monster. After a while, Xing Sword Gorge said, "We just heard that when a great boundless realm figure goes through the 9th Great Desolation, he will inevitably encounter the attack of the primordial bell. In other words, even these old guys hadn't encountered such a tribulation yet. It was precisely because of this that they were so shocked." Lin Sun was shocked and thought of the Eternal Night Emperor. There was no doubt that the Eternal Night Emperor, who was attacked by the primordial bell before going to the Divine City of Fortune, was likely to face the 9th Great Desolation. At the thought that he was targeted by the primordial bell when he was only at the early stage of creation realm, Lin Sun felt a chill down his spine. If it weren't for he too, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Fortunately, it's all in the past. What we are facing now is just Xian Hu, Lei Song and the other 5 people, Renfutian said with a smile. Renfutian laughed. "If I'm not wrong, they should have already found out about the destruction of their base. It's very likely that they're in a rage right now." Everyone couldn't help laughing. "In my opinion, even if they don't come to Lotus Leaf Mountain now, they will come sooner or later. What we need to do is to make arrangements first, discuss countermeasures, and strive to kill them all in one fell swoop." Fu Nanli was full of killing intent. But when it came to this issue, Xing Sword Gorge frowned. "I'm afraid it's a little difficult to kill them all in one fell swoop." Speaking of this, he thought of something and looked at Lin Sun with a strange expression. "Of course, if we use our trump card well, there's a great chance to kill them all." More updates.